Chapter 764. In the afternoon, the lazy sunlight shone on the forest. In front of them was an unexplored mountain path, so everyone could only lead their horses and cut their way through the thorns. Lin Muyu walked at the front, waving her ice origin sword and chopping the thorns into pieces. Every strike only used a small amount of the law of wind to crush the thorns, as if she didn't want to waste any more energy. Zhuang Xiaoyu led his horse along and couldn't help but laugh. Young hero, how long are you going to take to open a path like this? You're someone who can kill a demonic sovereign by yourself, but the strength of your sword strike can't even compare to a primary sacred warrior. Aren't you saving too much energy? Lin Muyu smiled faintly, using the least amount of energy to do the most. What's wrong with that? A smile of admiration appeared on Shang Qian's face as she said, Young hero is right. We can encounter danger everywhere in the forest of no return. I think it's right for us to travel slowly and maintain our strength at all times. Only then will we be able to deal with any danger that comes our way. Yes, Miss Shang Qian is right. Zhuang Xiaoyu nodded. Since even Shang Qian had said so, there was nothing to refute. After all, he was a man who had walked through countless flowers and had seen all kinds of women. He naturally knew how to speak in front of women. A man who always refuted a woman's views and bragged would not be able to pick up a woman. Jie. At this moment, the sharp cry of a falcon came from the sky. From afar, it looked like a small black shadow was circling in the sky. It's a wolf falcon. Lin Muyu frowned. Are we being followed by a dragon rider again? No, that's not a wolf falcon. Zhuang Xiaoyu frowned. A wolf falcon can't fly that high, and its voice is much sharper than a wolf falcon's. It should be a wild falcon. Young hero, there's no need to be suspicious. There are hundreds of beasts in the forest of no return, and birds of prey are no exception. It's very common for one or two falcons to appear in the sky. If it's a wolf falcon, it would fly even lower in order to follow it. Zhuang Xiaoyu was from the Tianji Empire, and the son of the Prime Minister. He knew more about dragon riders and wolf falcons than Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu naturally couldn't refute him. She nodded and said, Anyways, we just have to be careful. I'll lead the way. Brother Xiaoyu, bring up the rear. The young prince and Miss Sikong will be in charge of guarding against the enemies around us. Although he was just a small ranger in the eyes of the others, his words were heavy and powerful. It actually made Zhuang Xiaoyu, Sikong Yao, Bai Mingjia, and the others feel that they had no choice but to obey him. A trace of surprise flashed through Shang Qian's beautiful eyes. He saw another valuable quality in Lin Muyu leadership. That's right, this person couldn't be simple. An ordinary ranger wouldn't have such a weather-beaten and capable temperament. Chen Hang, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke. He looked up at the sky and said, The mountain roads are difficult to travel. We don't have to go too far. Let's find a water source and set up camp near dusk. Nighttime is when demonic spirits are most active. I have a bad feeling that we've walked into a trap set up by a demonic spirit. Trap. Si Kongyao's mouth was wide open. Uncle Chen Hang, what do you mean by that? Chen Hang respectfully said, Reporting to Miss Sikong, demonic spirits understand human nature, and also know how to scheme. 2 days ago, we killed a demon king and 2 demon sovereigns. However, we haven't received any attacks from the demonic spirits. This can only mean one thing. The demonic spirits are gathering their strength. They plan to use their numbers to crush and kill us all at once. Si Kongyao's beautiful eyes widened. That's impossible. Demonic spirits have always been alone. How could they move in a group? There's no such record in the Empire's Demon Spirit book. Ha ha ha. Chen Heng couldn't help but laugh and said, The Demon Spirit book is an ancient book from 300 years ago. It was written by several sacred martial king-level experts. How profound can it be? According to what I know, it's not like thousands of demonic spirits have never appeared before. However, there must be a core figure for them to move in a group. Core figure? Shang Qian was stunned. What's that? Demonic Emperor. Chen Heng's voice was very deep as he said, The demonic emperor is the ruler of the entire demonic spirit world. Only the demonic emperor has the ability to summon so many demonic spirits to attack together. 2,000 years ago, The Blackstone Empire invaded our territory. 270,000 troops passed through the Forest of No Return and encountered a demonic spirit army commanded by a demonic emperor. The 270,000 troops were so frightened that they stopped advancing and could only retreat in the end. You can imagine how powerful the demonic emperor is. Zhuang Xiaoyu frowned his brows. Uncle Chen, don't be an alarmist. This junior killed a demon king a few days ago. This demonic spirit is only a stubborn branch of the continent. If the 5 major forces were to join forces, they would be able to kill all the demonic spirits in the continent within 10 years. How powerful would the demonic emperor be then? Really? Chen Hang smiled faintly and said, I think young Master Zhuang might be wrong. A mere demon king is nothing. Furthermore, the demon king you killed had a dull color on its neck. Obviously, it was a demon sovereign that had just advanced to the demon king realm. Its strength was even weaker. It is said that a demon Tharch can easily kill 5 demon kings working together. Don't you know? 5 demon kings? Zhuang Xiaoyu's voice was slightly trembling. Forget it. Chen Hang flicked his sleeves and said, the demonic emperor is only a legend. No one has seen it before. There have been no legends of the demonic emperor in the continent for close to 100 years. We probably won't meet one either. But those auras are not fake. Lin Muyu suddenly said. Everyone looked at him. Shang Qian asked, young hero, what auras? They are following our auras. They are not far nor near. Approximately 10 miles away. They just don't enter our field of vision. We are being followed. And yes, how is that possible? Zhuang Xiaoyu was stunned. How did young hero know of auras that are 10 miles away? The kingdom's sacred martial supreme experts can only sense auras that are 5 miles away. In any case, there are. If you don't believe me, ask Chen Hang. Chen Hang was silent for a few seconds before nodding and saying, he is right. There are indeed many auras following us. There are at least 20 or more demonic spirits. Their strength. The weakest one is a 4th-class demonic spirit. Oh my god! Si Kongyao was shocked. Then we are finished. Why don't we leave Lu Bai and Shi Tianming and fly away from the Forest of No Return? We can still save our lives that way. Shi Tianming wailed. Don't, young miss, save me. Chen Hang smiled. Forget it. Young miss, you are thinking too simply. There are many demonic spirits that are good at flying and capturing auras. In terms of sensitivity to auras, the demonic spirit's perception is stronger than ours. It is almost impossible for us to fly away. Moreover, he emphasized his tone and said, don't pin your hopes on the support of sacred martial god level experts. Even with the strength of a sacred martial god, they can shatter the void and teleport no more than 50 miles in the same plane. We are 500 to 600 miles away from Tianji City. Even if sect leader Si Kongming and Commander Zhang Cheng know of our danger, they won't be able to come for a while. We can only rely on ourselves. Yes, rely on ourselves. Despite being in a desperate situation, Zhuang Xiaoyu's state of mind calmed down, and his face regained its confidence. This was the attitude that an expert should have, unlike Lu Bai and Shi Tianming, who were already pale with fright. As for Si Kongyao, her fear seemed to be a contrast to the atmosphere around them. In fact, this guy didn't seem to be worried about anything. He was just looking forward to seeing a more lively scene. Shang Qian's pair of beautiful eyes swept across everyone, and found that the most calm and composed were Chen Hang and Lin Muyu. This also vaguely proved that these two people had the highest cultivation among the group. This made Shang Qian look at Lin Muyu even more. Just as Chen Hang said, this guy hid his strength deeply and no one knew how strong he was. Young hero, will we be all right? Lu Bai led his horse and followed closely behind Lin Muyu. He asked cautiously, don't worry, we will be fine. Oh, that's good. At most, we will be eaten by the demon spirit. That way, we will be free from the troubles of the world. Don't you think so, Lini? Young hero, are you joking? Lu Bai's face was ashen. I don't want to die. I'm still a virgin. Lin Muyu waved her sword and cut down a clump of thorns. She casually said, who isn't? I don't want to die either. Then I will live well. Si Kongyao and Shang Qian opened their mouths at the same time, as if they had understood something. As for Zhuang Xiaoyu, Shi Tianming, and Bai Mingjie, they all grinned. Everyone had a tacit understanding. In this day and age, those who had never touched a woman in their 20s were mostly very poor. As for the three of them, they had been born into wealthy families. They had already experienced countless women. Life was short, and they should enjoy themselves in the moment. To them, having 3 wives and 4 concubines was something that they should do. Lu Bai was obviously poor. It was understandable that he had never touched a woman, but Lin Muyu had an extraordinary temperament and was so powerful. It was unimaginable that he had never had a woman. Thus, Zhuang Xiaoyu and Shi Tianming looked at him strangely. Lin Muyu felt goosebumps rising from their stares. Was it wrong to be pure in this day and age? If that was the case, when Qin Yin returned, she would have to discuss this important matter with her. If Qin Yin agreed, then it would be a success. If Qin Yin was too shy to say it, then the passionate Xiao Xi should be willing. Thinking of Tang Xiaoxi, Lin Muyu felt warmth in her heart. She wondered how she was doing in the Shattered Cauldron realm. She should be working hard to prepare for the war. It must have been hard on her. In the evening, they found a water source in the forest and set up camp not far away. Chapter 765. At night, the bright moon hung high in the sky. It was rare for there to be such a beautiful night. The cool breeze blew gently, causing the branches in the forest to rustle. Lin Muyu laid on an ancient tree between the rocks with her arms as a pillow. Her eyes were looking at the stars in the sky while her heart was thinking about the person far away. She allowed the starlight and moonlight to seep into her body. She slowly circulated the star art and cultivated by herself. A faint fragrance entered her nose. She didn't need to think to know who it was. Why aren't you refining and absorbing demon spirit stones today? Si Kongyao sat beside Lin Muyu and asked with a smile. Maintain your strength. It won't be quiet tonight. Why do you say that? Si Kongyao was surprised. Lin Muyu said indifferently. I can sense ruthlessness and killing intent from the demon spirits. I think they will make their move tonight, right? Since we can't escape, we can only fight. Si Kongyao knitted her brows. Are you sure? I'm sure. How many demon spirits are there? At least 1,000, with varying strengths. From rank 9 to Demon King. We can only hope that there won't be any demon arch. Otherwise, we will die here tonight. Speaking until here, Lin Muyu lifted her head and looked at Si Kongyao. She noticed that Si Kongyao's beautiful face was also looking at her. Lin Muyu's eyes turned gentle as she smiled. She lowered her voice and said, Young lady Si Kong, if there really is a demon arch class demon spirit, you can't run around. You have to stay by my side. I will bring you and Lu Bai and leave by shattering the void. After that I will bring Lu Bai and fly. We will leave the forest of no return as soon as possible. Really? Si Kongyao felt warm and happy. Although Lin Muyu said that they should run away, he still had her in his heart and put her in front of Shang Qian. Shang Qian was the #1 beauty in the empire and was more feminine than her. After all, she was older and more mature. Sometimes, a girl's mind was so simple. If she loved someone, if he treated her well, she would be dead set on him. However, as a saint-martial saint, Si Kongyao's temperament had become much wilder as she cultivated. She wouldn't submit to a man so easily. She pouted and said, I'm not running away. If I'm going to leave, I'll bring everyone with me. I came out with big sister Shang Qian. I can't go back alone. And let's do our best. Although Lin Muyu was from the Shattered Cauldron realm, she had been with this group of people for a long time. She was embarrassed to let Shi Tianming, Zhuang Xiaoyu, and the others die in the forest of no return. However, the murderous aura tonight was too heavy. It would be difficult for everyone to escape unscathed. Swish. Lin Muyu flipped over and landed on the ground. She walked on the rocky road outside the campsite and even stomped on the road. Most of it was rocks, and a small portion was soil. What's wrong? Si Kongyao followed. It's better to be prepared. Let's dig a trap. Lin Muyu smiled. She suddenly recalled the scene in the dragon-seeking forest when Wei Chou and the others were hiding from the heaven beast. It was very similar to today. The only difference was that today's opponents were much stronger. The heaven beast's strength was at most equivalent to a tier 4 demon spirit, But today's opponents were demon kings or even demon thearchs. A trap? Si Kongyao's eyes lit up. She was overflowing with interest. She loved interesting things the most. Young lady, step aside. Lin Muyu raised her palm and pushed Si Kongyao's delicate body back, opening up a space of about 10 meters in front of her. If they wanted to get close to the campsite, this was practically a path that the terrestrial demon spirits had to pass through. Therefore, she would just have to exhaust them here. Thinking up to here, Lin Muyu's palm had already produced a whirlpool of wind. Suddenly, the rocks in front of her flew up, as though they were being pulled. In the next moment, countless tiny wind blades seeped out of the ground in front of them and rapidly spun, cutting the ground into tiny pieces. In just a moment, a 3-meter wide, 30-meter long, and 8-meter deep pit appeared in front of them. However, this was an undisguised trap. Lin Muyu controlled the law of wind, and piled a pile of rocks on the hillside behind the campsite, greatly increasing the height of the hillside. Shang Qian also walked over at this moment, and looked at Lin Muyu in amazement. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Huge trees collapsed one after another. Lin Muyu brandished his long sword and continuously cut down the thin branches and leaves. Then he used his fire god's power to evaporate the tree trunks, and threw all of them into the trap. The branches were then used as a cover. Young hero, how do you know all of this? Shang Qian finally couldn't help but ask. Lin Muyu smiled and said, when I was young, I followed his honor to travel around and cultivate. I encountered quite a few wild beasts, so I already know how to protect myself. As long as the low-grade demon spirits fall into the trap, we just need to throw a torch and it will be enough to kill them 7 to 8 times. Shang Qian nodded and smiled. Behind him, Zhuang Xiaoyu and Bai Mingjie also walked over. Zhuang Xiaoyu's face was filled with disdain as he smiled and said, young hero, this is too unnecessary. What's the use of killing a few low-grade demon spirits? Using this kind of trick is completely useless. Lin Muyu didn't explain. He leaped back onto the tree and closed his eyes. He had already done all he could. The rest would depend on everyone's luck. However, everyone waited for a long time. It was around 3 in the morning, but the demon spirits still didn't attack. Could it be that they have given up on attacking us? Zhuang Xiaoyu put away his purple gold fan. Not necessarily. Bai Mingjie's hand was on the hilt of his sword as he quietly sat there. He knew that his strength was not as good as Zhuang Xiaoyu's, nor was it as good as Lin Muyu and Si Kongyao's. Therefore, the only thing he could do was to conserve his strength and survive the upcoming battle. Aolo! In the distance, a wolf's howl could be heard, which also meant that the demon spirits were invading. They're here. Lin Muyu flipped himself up from the tree. His gaze was like a sword as he looked into the distance and said, so many, they're coming together. Everyone be careful. Everyone retreat, don't get close to the entrance of the valley. Zhuang Xiaoyu stepped on the air and flew up. Looking into the distance, he saw a blood-red light soaring into the sky. A black mass of demon spirits were flying over. Some were running on the ground, some were flying in the sky. Zhuang Xiaoyu's face instantly turned pale as he said, Ayao, so many flying type demon spirits, what should we do? Si Kongyao clenched his teeth and pulled out his sword with a clang. The divine power of the ice mystic art surged on the blade as he said, what other choice do we have besides fighting them to the death? Do we still have to negotiate? The demon spirits naturally wouldn't negotiate. Humans had intruded into their territory, so they could only be satisfied by slaughtering. At this moment, Shang Qian raised his head to look at Lin Muyu, only to find that this strange guy actually took out a blood-red longbow from his spatial bag. It didn't look like an ordinary item, and with a wave of his hand, he took out a quiver filled with silver arrows. That was the luster of a white diamond arrow. Squeak! Lin Muyu lightly exerted force and pulled the longbow into a full moon shape. Although his archery skills were far from Wei Chao's, as his cultivation increased, he became more proficient. At the very least, any large target within 200 meters would not be able to escape from his arrows. Whoosh! The white diamond arrow carried a strand of divine power as it pierced through the sky. With a pu sound, it shot into the head of a Class 6 demon spirit wolf, directly piercing through its brain. This demon spirit wolf also became the first victim of tonight's bloody battle. He is actually proficient in archery. Si Kongyao looked back. Her eyes were almost filled with little stars. In Si Kongyao's eyes, this guy is becoming more and more perfect, like a real god. After shooting the arrow, Lin Muyu did not stop. He quickly took out a second white diamond arrow and placed it on the bowstring. In less than a second, the arrow was shot out with a powerful force, once again piercing through the head. That was a Class 7 flying-type demon spirit. It looked like a hornet, but its body was similar to a Tibetan mastiff. Its body was covered in hard armor, but this hard armor was simply unable to block the tip of the white diamond arrow. Arrow after arrow, Lin Muyu stood on top of the tree. In a blink of an eye, he had already killed dozens of demon spirits on the ground and in the air. Although they were all low-ranked demon spirits, it greatly boosted the morale of the demon spirits. Furthermore, the death of the low-ranked demon spirits also caused their companions to feel fear. The demon spirit that was running at the front even revealed a little bit of satisfaction. Jiejia, a sharp bird cry came from the sky. There were streaks of flames. Zhuang Xiaoyu raised his head to take a look. His face was pale. Be careful, it's a Class 5 demon spirit, Flamingo. Flamingo can control fire. Don't let them get close, or else the camp will be finished. Flamingo? Lin Muyu took out another arrow, knocked it on the bow, and aimed at the flamingo in the distance. Both of her eyes were covered with a layer of faint gold, and her vision suddenly became very clear. The flamingo's body is even bigger than a wolf falcon, but its head is extremely small, only the size of a cat's head. She must shoot its head, otherwise, she might not be able to kill it. After all, it's a Class 5 demon spirit. So, the arrow flew out, accurately hitting the flamingo's head. However, only a jia-jia sound could be heard. The flamingo's body slightly trembled in the air, flapped its wings, and actually flew back up. This arrow actually did not pierce through the flamingo's head? Such a hard skull. This arrow contained 10% of Lin Muyu's strength. Clenching her teeth, she can no longer save her divine power. She used 20% of her strength. Puff. This arrow directly pierced through the flamingo's head, and a streak of flames fell from the sky. Before it landed, the flames were extinguished. Good archery. Si Kongyao sincerely praised. Lin Muyu was speechless for a while. If this archery is considered good, then Wei Chao's archery must be considered godly. Chapter 766. Roar, roar, roar. The ground slightly trembled as a group of black shadows charged over from the entrance of the valley. Their bodies were heavy. It's a group of rhinoceroses with weird faces. Their faces looked like Curator King. It's the human-faced rhinoceros. Be careful, it's a Tier 4 demon spirit. Chen Heng shouted. Tier 4 demon spirit. Lin Muyu's heart sank. It seems like her plan is going to fail. A Tier 4 demon spirit's strength is at least equivalent to the Holy King realm. These huge human-faced rhinoceroses are charging over. Can the trap she dug really kill them? Boom, boom, boom. In the blink of an eye, dozens of human-faced rhinoceroses fell into the trap. She could only try her best. Lin Muyu raised her palm. Heavenly fire descended from the sky and fell into the trap, quickly igniting the firewood in the trap. The human-faced rhinoceroses are land creatures. They haven't cultivated to human form yet. They wailed in pain, but they didn't show any signs of being burned to death. Instead, they crazily smashed into the soil in the trap, causing the ground to tremble, as if they've gone mad. In the sky, there were dozens of flamingos and different flying creatures, but they're all demon spirits. Lin Muyu shot out arrows as fast as she could. She doesn't want to make a move right now. There's definitely a stronger demon spirit behind this flock of flamingos. She has to preserve her strength to escape. Let's go. Zhuang Xiaoyu flew up and waved his purple gold fan. A gale soared into the sky, shredding 2 flamingos into pieces. Bai Mingjia also raised his longsword and fought with a Tier 4 demon spirit. Shang Qian stood outside the camp. Her eyes reflected the figures fighting with the others. She said in a low voice, Uncle Chen, you should go as well. Otherwise, everyone might really die. Missy, take care of yourself. Chen Heng took out a weapon from his interspatial bag. It's an azure spear, rock collapse spear. Rank 6 sacred grade spear. It's a pretty good weapon in the Tianji Empire. With an angry roar, Chun Heng was like a bolt of lightning as he arrived in front of the traps. The rock-crushing spear pierced into the mouth of a human-faced rhinoceros with lightning speed. Earth attribute divine force surged, and directly crushed the head of the human-faced rhinoceros. A 4th-tier demon spirit was actually killed by him in one hit. The rock collapse spear danced wildly, killing one demon spirit after another. Chun Heng was indeed a sacred grade martial king. Against a demon spirit below the demon venerable rank, it's simply a massacre. The flames became colder. The flamingos in the sky quickly flapped their wings, condensed fire arrows and shot down. Wu, Si Kongyao, who was fighting with a demon venerable, couldn't help but find it a little difficult to deal with. She held her sword and retreated dozens of meters. She gently raised her palm and condensed an ice shield to block the flamingo's attack. Clang 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 clang. The flame arrows splashed on the surface of the ice shield. This was a great consumption of Si Kongyao's divine power. Die. Si Kongyao suddenly shuttled through space. She stepped on a cloud and slashed the flamingo's head. She then flipped and retreated to avoid the attacks of 2 stingy bees. The ice dome in her palm was dense. Overwhelming power surged. The first style of the ice mystic art, Frost, danced in the sky and froze a few flying type tier 6 demon spirits into ice cubes. Missy Sikong, good job. Lu Bai cheered from afar. However, at this moment, a woman's delicate shout came from behind. Missy Sikong? Go to hell. It's a woman wearing green clothes. There are 2 patterns on her neck. She's a Demon King level demon spirit. However, she's already in human form. Furthermore, she's a very enchanting woman. Her degree of provocation far exceeds Si Kongyao and Shang Qian. She waved her sharp claws and attacked Si Kongyao's back. Si Kongyao, who had just broken through space once, can no longer use this ability. She hastily swung her sword. Ice and snow fluttered in the air. Ice blade. Bang. The ice blade was actually torn apart by the Demon King's sharp claws. The enchanting woman grabbed onto Si Kongyao's sword and swung it with all her might. She actually brought Si Kongyao's body down to the ground. With a loud crash, the air currents reverberated as Si Kongyao fell to the ground, creating a huge crater. Her face was filled with anger as she grabbed the Demon King's wrist with a backhand. The dome of ice around her rapidly swirled. Ice blade cage. Poo poo poo, sounds rang out as the surrounding ice dome blades formed a cage. They collided with the demon monarch's body like sharp swords, directly piercing through her clothes. Under the moonlight, her beautiful body was covered in wounds. Si Kongyao's strength was not fake. Furthermore, she was well versed in Si Kongming's secret art. Even if she could not completely defeat a demon monarch, she would not be defeated. However, this isn't a one-on-one battle. Bang! Si Kongyao's body suddenly trembled. Behind her, a huge man-faced rhinoceros slammed its horn heavily into her back. The ice dome chi shattered and Si Kongyao immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. The Demon King laughed loudly, and threw Si Kongyao's body into the crater. She screamed, "Brats, eat her for me." Rustling sounds came from the ground. It was a group of beetles crawling out from the ground. It's the carrion beetles. Zhuang Xiaoyu, who was being held back by 2 demonic venerables, was shocked. He turned to look at Lin Muyu and roared, "Do you want to watch Yao die? You trash, do you only know how to watch from afar?" Chua. A streak of light shot out from the cliff. Lin Muyu originally didn't want to use this move, but it seemed like she had no choice but to use it now. The wind from her punch was biting cold, carrying the power of chaos of the lives as it swept out. Bang! The explosion of power sent a group of carrion beetles flying. Lin Muyu bent down and wrapped one hand around Si Kongyao's waist. Si Kongyao's face was pale, and the corner of her mouth was full of blood. However, a smile appeared on her face. "I knew you would save me. Don't speak." Lin Muyu raised her head, and saw that the Demon King was no longer wearing any clothes. She walked over in a seductive manner. She was indeed a stunner, but also a deadly creature. She looked at Lin Muyu with a smile and said, "Yo, young man, you're pretty strong. However, you must die here today." My 300+ stinger bees have been yearning for blood for a long time. Behind her, a dense swarm of stinging bees danced in the air. They were all 6th-tier demon spirits. If this swarm of stinging bees attacked ferociously, with their advantage in numbers, they would probably be able to turn any sacred martial king into a dried corpse. Pfff. Bai Mingjie spat out a mouthful of blood. His arms and chest were covered in wounds. He could no longer fight. There were too many demon spirits, and it was not something that a few people could handle. Even Chen Hang was panting heavily. His divine power was almost exhausted. Everyone back off. Lin Muyu said indifferently. What did you say? Chen Hang and Zhuang Xiaoyu asked in surprise. At this moment, he actually told everyone to back off. Did he want to die with Si Kongyao? Under everyone's astonished gaze, a golden halo rose from Lin Muyu's feet. The buzzing sound was extremely uncomfortable, but everyone could feel the power of this halo. Moreover, there were lines of ancient characters circling around the halo. It was profound and mysterious. A word was already on the verge of coming out. How is this possible? Chen Hang stood there in a daze. Lin Muyu carried the heavily injured Si Kongyao with one hand. She raised her other hand, and the golden wool quickly appeared in her palm. It rapidly expanded, turning into a huge wheel with a radius of over 100 meters. Under Lin Muyu's command, it swept out. Boom boom boom. The mountains cracked and the earth sank. Hundreds of stinger bees were turned to dust by this attack. Even the Demon King whimpered miserably. Like a broken leaf, it was sent flying hundreds of meters away by the roulette's attack, and no one knew where it had landed. Wang. The shockwave only spread out a few seconds later, shaking the mountains and rivers. This is... Si Kongyao opened her mouth, not knowing what to say. Zhuang Xiaoyu, Shi Tianming, Bai Mingjie, and the rest were all dumbfounded. It's... God. God. Chen Hang stood there silently, but he didn't utter the word wheel. He knew that the divine will could only be activated by a sovereign with a sovereign persona, or a god emperor. The young man in front of him was clearly not as strong as a god emperor, so there was only one other possibility. What did the sovereign persona mean to the entire continent? It was a kind of king's way, a kind of power that made the world revere and fall silent. Uncle Chen Hang, there are some things that shouldn't be known by too many people. You understand this principle, right? Lin Muyu said lightly. Chen Hang's expression became respectful. Yes, young hero. I understand. Young hero, please rest assured. I will keep my mouth shut. And many thanks. Chen Hang knew what a person with a supremacy godhead meant. He could be the ruler of the world in the future. Who would dare to offend such a person? Chen Hang was just a small guard leader. He couldn't even be ranked in the top 10 in the entire Tianji Empire, let alone the entire Celestial Pole continent, or even the entire 3 realms. It didn't matter if he offended Lin Muyu now, but in the future, he might have to pay the price of having his soul destroyed. Is everyone okay? Lin Muyu asked. Everyone shook their heads. To them, it was fine if they didn't die. Si Kongyao wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and struggled to stand up. She was still holding onto Lin Muyu's arm. Her beautiful eyes looked into the distance. The remaining demons had already escaped. She said faintly, have they all been scared away? Chen Hang, maybe. But at this moment, a melodious voice came from afar. It was a very melodious woman's voice. In the boundless mountains and seas, demons gather. In the long blue sky, they fly freely. Heaven and earth, my heart is unfathomable. The moral of the world is a joke. Chen Hang was shocked. It's over, it's over. Chapter 767. The melody of the zither was accompanied by the ballad. It was as if someone was reciting an ancient story, but if one listened carefully, there was a hidden murderous intent. At least, the person singing this song was definitely not a human. It was a well-known fact that high-class demon spirits could transform into human form. For a high-class demon spirit to be able to sing and play the zither, it must be extremely powerful. Chen Hang held the rock-collapsing spear and retreated quickly. He stood beside Shang Qian and whispered, "Eldest young lady, let's go." Go. Shang Qian was stunned. Chen Hang lowered his voice and said, The demonic Tharch is here. It must be the demonic Tharch. We don't even have a sacred martial god in our group. We are definitely not a match for the demonic Tharch. Staying here is equivalent to waiting for death. Let them resist for a while. This subordinate will fly with eldest young lady for a distance, and stay behind to cover the rear. Eldest young lady, return to the imperial capital the way you came and never come back to the forest of no return again. This won't do. Shang Qian said indifferently. I can't let Si Kongyao escape and panic when she is in danger. Uncle Chun, if you are afraid, you can leave first. Even if I die, I want to die with everyone. Chen Heng's face revealed a trace of pain. But eldest young lady, before we left, Lord Zhongqing instructed me. In short, I can't go back on my word. Shang Qian's face was filled with determination. Say fine. Then this subordinate will accompany eldest young lady and risk our lives here. Perhaps we won't die. With young hero here. Shang Qian's pair of bright eyes looked in the direction of Lin Muyu and Chu Yao. No, after using the god power, young hero's strength dropped by at least 50%. Even if he maintained his full god power, he wouldn't be a match for the demonic Tharch. Moreover, he only has 50% of his strength now. Chen Heng was a little dejected and said, I didn't expect our luck to be this bad. The forest of no return is thousands of miles away, but we just had to encounter this damn demon emperor. At that moment, Zhuang Xiaoyu held the purple gold fan shakily and gathered his divine power in his throat. He said loudly, We're Zhuang Xiaoyu, the son of the Grand Minister of the Tianji Empire, Bai Mingjia, the son of the Luo King, and Si Kongyao, the young mistress of the Tianji sect. I wonder who you are. Since you're already here, why don't you show yourself? The cold wind whistled, and the singing stopped abruptly. Only a rustling sound could be heard from the forest. The next moment, countless demon spirits appeared on the hill 500 meters away. There were demon kings and demon venerables in human form, as well as high-level demon spirits with stooped bodies. They were in different forms, and all of them had ferocious looks in their eyes. They glared at the humans in front of them, as if they wanted to tear them into pieces. Zhuang Xiaoyu, Chen Heng, Si Kongyao, and the rest were dumbfounded. Oh no, the demon spirits that were dispersed by Lin Muyu's spirit will seem to have gathered again due to the singing. It seems like the situation is bad. Si Kongyao said with a faint look in her eyes, There are so many demon spirits. We can't escape even if we wanted to. It's all my fault. I was so careless and insisted on entering the forest of no return. Why did I bring trouble upon myself? Lin Muyu comforted her. It's okay. You won't die here. Why are you so confident? Commoner E is a fortune teller. He already knew that we wouldn't die in the forest of no return before our lifespans ended. Is that so? Si Kongyao felt some comfort in her heart. She turned to look in Lu Bai's direction, only to find that he was hugging the bottom of a big tree and squatting there, shivering. He only dared to poke his head out to look at the situation. Instantly, Si Kongyao's heart sank. It seemed that the fraud himself was scared out of his wits. She should just forget about this kind of fortune-telling. It was too unreliable. Bai Mingjie stabbed his blood-stained longsword into the ground. His arms were full of demon spirit scratch marks, and his face had a hint of vicissitude as he said, Brother Xiaoyu, I didn't expect that after so many years in the imperial capital, we would have to die here together. Sigh, it's fate, I guess. Zhuang Xiaoyu frowned. He didn't want to die here. He raised his brows and said, Young Duke, there's no need to be too depressed. Let's wait and see. For now, they only have 2 demon kings and 5 demon sovereigns. If that's the case, even if we don't have the chance to win, there's still a chance to escape. As long as the demon Tharch doesn't appear. Before he could finish his sentence, the countless demon spirits on the hill suddenly went into an uproar. Many demon spirits retreated with respect on their faces. Even those ugly mud skippers with the head of a wolf and the body of a snake also prostrated themselves on the ground. The crowd of demon spirits parted like a tide, opening up a path. Then, a powerful aura slowly descended onto the ground. Shushu. A pair of exquisite lotus flower gold shoes stepped on the wild grass and ascended the hill. Under the illumination of the bright moon, It was an absolutely beautiful woman who was around 25 years old. She was enchanting and had a beautiful face that could move one's soul. In her arms, she was hugging an instrument that looked like a pipa. She wore a long dress and walked over in a charming manner. Her eyes were like stars as she looked at Lin Muyu and the others from afar. She said indifferently, "Someone is looking for me?" Her voice was extremely pleasant to listen to, even more so than when she was singing earlier. Zhuang Xiaoyu turned around and floated forward. He cupped his hands respectfully and said, "Junior Zhuang Xiaoyu greets Senior." "Senior?" The woman with the pipa smiled and looked at Zhuang Xiaoyu with all kinds of charm. "You look like you're at least 30 years old, and I'm only 20 years old. What right do you have to call me Senior?" Because. Zhuang Xiaoyu was originally eloquent, but under the piercingly cold gaze of the other party, he actually couldn't say anything. "Because I'm a demon arch?" The beauty suddenly smiled and said. Zhuang Xiaoyu's face was covered in beads of sweat. His body was slightly trembling, and he didn't dare to reply. The beauty's charming face was covered in a layer of frost as she said, "That's right, we are demon spirits. However, the demon spirit clan has lived in the forest of no return for many years, and we have never interfered with you humans. Why do you repeatedly send people into the forest to kill our clansmen? I don't care if you are a prince or a situ. Today, you have entered my forest of no return and killed my demon spirit elder. Only death awaits you." Zhuang Xiaoyu was overwhelmed with shock. "Oui. What? Do you have anything to say before you die?" The beauty faintly smiled and said, "Forget it, I'll let you die in peace. I'll tell you my name. I'm Nu Shi, the 21st Demon Arch of the Forest of No Return. I'm in charge of the 3,000 miles of fertile land in the Forest of No Return. Now you can die." As she spoke, Nu Shi floated forward with her pipa in her arms. The demonic power around her condensed into a scarlet cloud, and Nu Shi leaped up and sat on the cloud. Her figure was graceful, and she affectionately adjusted the strings of her pipa. Her eyes revealed a smile that made people's hearts turn cold. She said, "Do you want to die one by one, or do you want to die together?" The demon Tharch Nu Shi was too powerful. She was at least a god Tharch expert. Moreover, the pipa in her hands looked unpredictable. No one knew what her attack method was. Lin Muyu gripped the ice essence sword. He knew that he couldn't force his way out, but it was different this time. Regardless of whether he made a move or not, as long as Nu Shi wanted to kill them, he had to face her. Rather than that, he might as well make a move earlier and not let Zhuang Xiaoyu and Bai Mingjie die in vain. At least he had the heavenly book, and escaping wouldn't be a problem. Just as Lin Muyu took a step forward, Si Kongyao suddenly grabbed his wrist and shook her head at him, indicating that he shouldn't act rashly. After all, Si Kongyao also felt that Lin Muyu's divine power was severely depleted. If he went forward rashly, he would simply be courting death. The best way was to let Zhuang Xiaoyu, Bai Mingjie, and Chen Heng test out the demon Tharch Nu Shi's strength first. Chen Heng remained silent. Bai Mingjie's hand that was holding the sword was still trembling. Before he accepted the challenge, he had already lost to this powerful demon Tharch in terms of aura. Zhuang Xiaoyu couldn't help but feel a sense of sorrow. He had been frivolous all his life, and with his arrogant talent, he was revered by the entire capital and even the entire Tianji Empire. He was the number one among the younger generation. But now he had a kind of enlightenment before his death. As long as he took a step forward and accepted the challenge from Nu Shi, he could already foresee his ending. But now, only Zhuang Xiaoyu was standing in front of him. If he didn't accept the challenge, who would? Forget it. Zhuang Xiaoyu suddenly burst into laughter. The saddest thing was that Si Kongyao, who he had grown up with and regarded as his younger sister, actually sent him to his death for a stranger. Zhuang Xiaoyu had always thought that he was dutiful to his friends. But now, it seemed that his frivolousness and pride seemed to have ruined all his efforts. At this moment, what was the difference between him and being deserted by his friends and family? "Miss Shangqian," Zhuang Xiaoyu muttered, took a deep breath and said, "Zhuang Xiaoyu doesn't have the fortune to accompany you in this life. We can only meet again in the next life." Shangqian stared blankly and remained silent. In Shangqian's heart, Zhuang Xiaoyu's existence was only because of his identity, status, and strength. As for affection, she was afraid that there wouldn't be any affection at all in just a few days. Wind attribute divine power whistled around the purple gold fan. Zhuang Xiaoyu let out a furious roar and raised his aura to the peak. His body slowly rose, and with a casual wave of his hand, an azure-colored storm swept over. Nu Shirshir, who was above the hill, didn't say a word. Her dainty fingers lightly plucked the zither strings. The zither strings were silent, but a vigorous and formless impact was blasted out, tearing apart Zhuang Xiaoyu's wind attribute attack. Ah! Zhuang Xiaoyu let out a miserable groan. His body was a little numb, and there were 2 streams of blood flowing down from his nose. Such a powerful demon arch. Just a single attack actually caused him to suffer internal injuries. The most terrifying thing was that Zhuang Xiaoyu didn't even see how Nu Shirshir attacked. He didn't know which law she was using, and there was no way for him to defend against it. Well done. Zhuang Xiaoyu let out a miserable roar. He raised the purple gold fan with both his hands and gathered all the energy in his body. With a loud bang, he blasted out another attack. It was the 3rd style of the wind god absolute, heaven and earth rend. Humph! Nu Shirshir let out a light snort, and a trace of contempt flashed past her delicate face. Her fingers lightly swung on the zither strings, and it was another formless and soundless attack. This time, Zhuang Xiaoyu's chest suddenly shook with a bang. His body rapidly curled up like a shrimp, and he vomited a large mouthful of blood in the air. You are not my opponent. Get lost. Nu Shirshir raised her palm, and Zhuang Xiaoyu was blasted to the ground by a surge of profound energy. Fresh blood sprayed in the sky. Chapter 768. Soundwave attack. It must be a soundwave attack. It was just like the murderous song played by Qin Yin with the 7-string zither. However, Nu Shir's soundwave attack was even more tyrannical. It was invisible and soundless, and it could kill people from 100 meters away. Even Zhuang Xiaoyu had used his family's secret art, but it was all for naught. He couldn't do anything as the invisible attack of the zither wasn't something that the wind could resist. Who's next? Nu Shir's eyes were indistinct, and her pure face didn't have any trace of the mortal world. She didn't look like a demon arch who killed people like flies, but a fairy that descended to the mortal world. However, Zhuang Xiaoyu, who was lying on the ground, was obviously proof that she wasn't. Lin Wuyu remained silent. Chen Heng was an old fox, but his strength was much more tyrannical than Zhuang Xiaoyu. If Lin Wuyu didn't make a move, Chen Heng probably wouldn't make a move. However, at this moment, Nu Shir smiled and said, Chen Heng, you are also someone who has cultivated for a long time. Why? Do you want a few juniors to be cannon fodder while you sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor? Chen Heng said coldly. How do you know my name? Nu Shir shook with laughter and sat on the clouds like a mischievous woman. She said, there are descendants of my demon spirit race everywhere in the celestial pole continent. As long as someone ascends or steps into the god state, how can I not know? The Tianji Empire only has 12 people in the sacred martial king realm. You are one of them, so I naturally know. Chen Heng's eyes turned cold. Since that's the case, this old man shall experience demon arch Nu Shir's secret art. Come on, this servant is waiting for you. Nu Shir's enchanting voice caused Chen Heng's emotions to sway. Perhaps to the demon arch. Even her voice and demeanor were already a kind of weapon. A weapon that could confuse one's mind. Uncle Chen, be careful, Shang Qian said. And I know. Chen Heng carried the rock-collapsing spear and walked forward step by step on the wild grass. When he saw Zhuang Xiaoyu's unconscious body on the ground, he stretched out his leg and gently sent Zhuang Xiaoyu back. He said, Eldest miss, please treat young Master Zhuang's injuries. Shang Qian flew up and caught Zhuang Xiaoyu. She hurriedly took out some ointment and applied it on him. Zhuang Xiaoyu's true injury was his heart meridian, which had been damaged by the sound of the zither. This was not something that could be treated with ointment. An injury to the heart meridian could only be healed by circulating his internal energy. The only thing Shang Qian could do was use her king's fighting flame to stabilize the chaotic aura in Zhuang Xiaoyu's body, so that he would not die in a coma. Eldest miss, let me do it. Bai Mingjie limped over. He was a God state expert, and naturally knew more about the injuries of a God state expert than Shang Qian. Shang Qian nodded and stood up to look into the distance. She was more concerned about the outcome of the battle between Chen Hang and the demon arch. Peng. Chen Hang took a step forward. Divine power surrounded his feet, and the ground seemed to be resonating with him. Every step he took, rocks rose from the ground and formed armor around his legs. When Chen Hang arrived at the bottom of the hill, his entire body was almost protected by the rock armor. Demon Arch Wuxia smiled and said, "Such a powerful earth elemental divine power. But what can you do?" Chen Hang leaped up and stood proudly in the sky with the rock-collapsing spear in his hand. He said, "We will know once we fight." Before he finished his sentence, Chen Hang's figure suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already above Wuxia's head. The rock-collapsing spear smashed down with the force of a mountain. Wuxia looked up to the sky. There was no fear on her elegant face. Instead, there was a hint of mockery. Peng. An invisible wall appeared between the two of them and repelled Chen Hang's attack. At the same time, Wuxia's fingers started to tremble, but there was no sound when she plucked the zither. However, Chen Hang's rock armor showed signs of cracking. Strands of rock shards fell, and he was instantly drenched in sweat. Only God knew how much impact Chen Hang had endured in this instant. Get lost. Wuxia raised her palm and sent Chen Hang flying 100 meters away with the invisible aura. Kaka. Chen Hang panted heavily and constantly gathered divine power to repair his rock armor. However, the speed of repair was far from enough. Wuxia sneered. Her fingers fluttered like butterflies, and invisible zither music swept over. Peng peng peng. Chen Hang could only defend. His rock armor continued to crack as he let out miserable howls. This sacred martial king-level expert was ultimately too inferior to the demon emperor. His defeat was already set in stone. After a series of zither music attacks, Wuxia's right hand suddenly covered the zither strings. Peng. The formless energy from all directions slammed into Chen Hang's body, instantly shattering his stone armor. Chen Hang howled in pain as he spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body was like a kite with a broken string as he fell from the sky. Lin Muyu saw everything clearly. Chen Hang's fall lasted for 3 to 5 seconds. As long as Nu Shi launched a sound wave attack, Chen Hang's body would be torn into pieces. Obviously, Nu Shi did not kill him. She was being merciful. Could it be that the demon arch also had fear and apprehension? Lin Muyu frowned and looked at Si Kongyao beside her. She seemed to understand something. Si Kongyao was also very strong, but Wuxia didn't challenge her. The reason was probably because of Si Kongyao's grandfather, Si Kongming. Si Kongming was known as the continent's #1 expert, and his cultivation was at the 94th layer of paradise. This was also Wuxia's apprehension. Once she killed Si Kongyao, Si Kongming would be infuriated, and the forest of no return would definitely suffer. Uncle Chun. Shang Qian flew forward and snatched Chen Hang back. The corner of Wuxia's mouth curled up again. This smile symbolized massacre. Her beautiful eyes looked at Lin Muyu and said, "You are the one who activated the God Wheel and killed thousands of my demon spirit race, right?" "Yes," Lin Muyu said frankly. "I had no choice but to let the demon spirit attack." "What a good no choice." Wuxia sneered and said, "Then I have no choice but to kill you, an outsider." Outsider. Lin Muyu's heart turned cold. This demon arch actually knew that she wasn't from the celestial pole continent? Thinking about it carefully, a demon arch was equivalent to a god arch. This Wuxia was a demon arch. Could it be that she had already obtained the ability of a divine strategy and could see through people's hearts? "You don't have to guess anymore. I can indeed see your inner world." Wuxia smiled faintly and said, "You and I were originally unrelated. You pursued your Tao, and I protected my homeland. However, you entered the forest of no return this time, and killed one of my demon venerables. I have to settle this score. The people from the Empire can't save you, and the people from the Divine Realm can't save you either. Come on, do it." Clang. Lin Muyu drew out the Ice Essence sword. There was no need to be sloppy when it came to making a move. Furthermore, Lin Muyu already had a plan. Even if she couldn't win against the demon arch, she had to leave this place alive. The demon Tharch could see through people's hearts, and this was rather terrifying. Therefore, Lin Muyu quickly recited a few chants of the clear heart technique to calm her mind. After her heart became still like water, the demon Tharch naturally couldn't see through any of her plans and thoughts. When Lin Muyu lifted his right leg, he gently stepped 20 centimeters in the air. It was as though he was stepping on an invisible flight of stairs. However, when he stepped down, a golden radiance emitted from his foot. It was the chi radiance of the divine power that transformed into a domain. He stepped into the sky step by step, and the force field of the domain increased layer by layer. It was obviously much more brilliant than Chen Heng's aura presence. Oh. Nu Sha couldn't help but smile. Interesting. Si Kongyao knitted her brows slightly. Be careful. Don't worry. Lin Muyu didn't turn back and walked towards Nu Sha step by step. He only stopped when they were less than 10 meters apart. At this moment, the east was already turning bright. The first ray of dawn landed on his handsome face. The morning ray turned into the power of the stars and rapidly surged into the ice essence sword. Lin Muyu's figure instantly went berserk as he turned into a stream of light and rushed straight towards Nu Sha. First appearance of the starlight. When the sword landed, a ray of starlight splashed on the invisible wall in front of Nu Sha. Lin Muyu actually took the initiative to attack when he was fighting against a stronger opponent. This was out of Nu Sha's expectation. Back off. Nu Sha's voice was filled with anger and command. Instantly, layers of sound wave attacks engulfed. There were a total of 91 sound waves. However, when the sound waves were in front of Lin Muyu, they came into contact with a golden radiance. A light pillar crystal that was rapidly revolving appeared. It was the Heaven Dragon Crystal. Buzz buzz buzz. The Heaven Dragon Crystal let out a sharp buzzing sound, causing indescribable pain in Lin Muyu's body. However, it was only pain and not injury. Just as he expected, the power of the light element was also formless and could resist Nu Sha's law of space attack. Not bad. Nu Sha smiled. Her smile was incomparably beautiful. However, the strings of the pipa moved silently, and 3 consecutive sound waves were launched. Lin Muyu gritted his teeth. He couldn't just blindly defend. Otherwise he would end up like Chen Heng. Swish. The ice essence sword flew out and engulfed in raging flames. It was an attack of the dragon flame spiral break. At the same time, Lin Muyu floated up. Her right fist was filled with the 7 luminaries Xian energy. Facing Nu Sha's beautiful face, she blasted out a 6 luminaries heaven and earth calamity. Oh. Nu Sha was taken aback for a moment. She waved her palm and knocked away the ice origin sword with a paw sound. Then she held her pipa horizontally and stroked both of her palms. Suddenly, a powerful impact pounced forward and collided with the 6 luminaries' heavenly tribulation. Pung. In the sky, a golden wave of air rushed out and easily uprooted and crushed all the trees in the hill tribe. A group of demons shrieked and retreated. This was no longer a battle that they could participate in. Nu Sha's strength was too strong. She turned her body and used the pipa as a weapon. With a pung sound, the pipa landed on Lin Muyu's chest. She raised her fist and heavily landed on Lin Muyu's wrist. Pa! A crisp and clear hit. The pain was so painful that Lin Muyu almost thought that the bones in her hand were broken. At the moment of life and death, she didn't think twice and took out the spirit beads of law. The spirit beads of law were fleeting, and in the blink of an eye, they turned into a huge wheel. It was a divine wheel attack. Emph. Nu Sha retreated dozens of meters. She raised both her palms and rays of golden light rose. It was also a divine wheel. However, before the 2 divine wheels completely came into contact, Lin Muyu's figure suddenly disappeared. In the next moment, she appeared behind Nu Sha. She raised her fist and used 100% of her strength. The strongest attack, 7 luminaries stars transformation. Boom boom boom, starlight sprinkled on the ground. Countless stars smashed down like cannonballs. Nu Sha's face was aghast as she condensed a divine wall. She looked at Lin Muyu coldly from afar. Under the chaotic fall of the stars, Nu Sha groaned and blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. However, Lin Muyu was in an even worse state. The backlash of the 7 luminaries' transformation almost devoured her body. You can go and die now. Nu Sha was only injured but not dead. In a flash, she appeared in the sky above Lin Muyu. She raised her palm and an invisible impact fell. Pung! Lin Muyu didn't die. The dragon blood shield that she hastily condensed saved her life. Chapter 769. Pung! Dust flew as Lin Muyu's body fell to the bottom of the hill, stirring up a few meters of soil and weeds. The aftermath of Nu Sha's attack only exploded after Lin Muyu landed on the ground. A wave of golden radiance surged in all directions, uprooting the nearby trees and sending gravel flying. It had the power to destroy heaven and earth. It was evident how domineering and forceful this attack was. The aura in his body was chaotic and his blood vessels were surging. Lin Muyu finally couldn't help but vomit a mouthful of blood. He was in a sorry state. He was defeated. And he was defeated without any suspense. How could a mere 22nd heaven grotto heaven realm rival Nu Sha's 91st heaven, celestial Tharch cultivation? Moreover, even when Lin Muyu used her strongest killer move, the 7 glorious stars transformation, it only caused Nu Sha to suffer a slight internal injury. Her combat strength did not weaken by much, and the powerful demonic power was still entrenched in the forest of no return. Above the clouds, Nu Sha was still sitting proudly on the dark red cloud. She looked down at Lin Muyu and said from afar, "Although your cultivation foundation is still shallow, you will definitely achieve great things in the future. I advise you to leave the forest of no return immediately and stay away from Si Kongyao, Shangqian and the others. They will bring you misfortune." Lin Muyu stood up shakily and asked, "You won't kill us?" Nu Sha smirked. "Killing you will only bring more hatred. Hurry up and leave. I don't want to see you guys before I change my mind." However, at this moment, a stalwart man on the hill said angrily, "Nu Sha, they killed our demon king brethren. Why should we let them go? Doesn't the demon monarch know about the saying of letting the tiger return to the mountain?" "Liexan, I said we should let them go. Why? Do you dare to object?" Nu Sha's eyes surged with killing intent. The demon king named Liexan trembled and quickly took a few steps back. He said respectfully, "I don't dare." Nu Sha looked up at the sky and said, "Humph, I'm afraid we have no choice but to let them go." "Why?" "See for yourself." In the distance, the roar of a giant dragon came from the sky above the forest. Black shadows flew over from the light of dawn. They were dragon knights. It was a group of dragon riders with the Tianji Empire's emblem on their necks. It was the Tianji Dragon Riders. "Our dragon knight is here." Si Kongyao was overjoyed. She flew forward to help Lin Muyu up. Dragons might spread out in the surroundings, and invisible auras surrounded and protected each other. Between every 2 dragon knights, there was a kind of power that kept them together. 20 dragon knights descended from the sky, forming an impenetrable wall that protected Si Kongyao, Zhuang Xiaoyu, and the others. The dragon knights were clad in exquisite armor, and their faces were filled with the desire to fight. At the very front, a dragon rider riding a black dragon took off his helmet, revealing a determined middle-aged face. He smiled at Si Kongyao and said, "Yao, you really are here." Si Kongyao was pleasantly surprised. "Uncle Lin Tongtian, you're here? What else? I can't just let you do whatever you want, right?" Lin Tongtian had a doting look on his face. "Not long after you left Tianji City, Master asked me to come and protect you." Looks like I'm really late." Lin Tongtian's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He suddenly turned to look at the people from the demon spirit clan. He was even fearless when he met the gaze of the demon emperor Nushi. As one of the 11 martial sage kings of the Tianji Empire, Lin Tongtian was one of the strongest people in the Tianji Dragon Riders. Furthermore, he had a special identity as one of the 3 disciples that Si Kongming was most proud of. He was well versed in the ice laws, and was highly regarded by the Tianji Empire and the Tianji sect. Furthermore, he was a calm person, and was known as a famous general of the Tianji Empire. "Oh, so you're a dragon knight." Nushi smiled. "I knew it. The other human armies don't have such a grand display." "Lin Tongtian, have you forgotten about the alliance that the Tianji Empire and the demon spirit clan of the Forest of No Return made over 100 years ago?" Now that you've brought your army into the forest of no return, can I take it as a provocation? Lin Tongtian smiled and said respectfully, So it's the Demon Emperor Nushi, Your Majesty. I have no intention of overstepping my authority. It's just that these insensible youngsters have entered the forest of no return by mistake. I believe they must have had some conflict with the Demon Spirit clan. Therefore, I hope that Your Majesty will forgive them and allow me to bring them out of the forest of no return. Nushi remained silent. She didn't want to blow things up. After all, it wasn't a wise decision to start a war with the entire Tianji Dragon Riders. However, the Demon King Li Xian beside Nushi was furious. He growled, Lin Tongtian, do you think the forest of no return is a place where you can come and go as you please? Your juniors killed a demon king of my clan, and you want to leave just like that? What do you want then? Lin Tongtian sneered. What do you want? Let's leave one of them as our sacrifice. The Demon King's gaze was aggressive. Otherwise, we can only start a war. The Demon Spirit clan is never afraid of war. Lin Tongtian remained silent. Zhuang Xiaoyu, who had already woken up, looked around and said, If we really start a war, I'm afraid that a mere 20 dragon riders won't be a match for the entire Demon Spirit clan. Do we really want to leave one of them as a sacrifice? As he spoke, Zhuang Xiaoyu's gaze landed on Liu Bai and Shi Tianming. These two were the most suitable candidates. Liu Bai felt goosebumps all over his body. He said, Young Master Zhuang, I'm not useless. I can observe the stars, read people's words, and am knowledgeable. I'm a talent. Shi Tianming was speechless. He didn't know what Liu Bai knew. It seemed like he had no choice but to leave him alive. Who would have thought that Lin Tongtian would suddenly pull out a spear from the pouch on the side of the dragon's neck? It was a weapon that was enshrouded in icy aura. It was the ice-congealing spear, a weapon that Si Kongming had bestowed upon him. It was also a weapon that had accompanied Lin Tongtian for many years. Lin Tongtian's face was filled with arrogance. He smiled and said, They are all from the Tianji Empire. If you want to use them as a sacrifice, you'll have to ask this spear of mine first. How dare you? The Demon King Li Xian roared and began to transform into a demon. His arms were trembling on the ground, and his arms were surrounded by a white airflow. His skin cracked open inch by inch, revealing the scales that belonged to a demon. 3 sharp horns protruded from his head, and his eyes instantly turned fiery red. With a ferocious smile he said, Just in time. I really want to see how powerful Lin Tongtian, the leader of the 3 dragon riders of the Tianji Empire, is. The air current swirled around the hill. The Demon King had already turned into a sharp arrow and shot towards the sky. He opened his arms wide and his sharp claws were filled with divine power. Then he attacked Lin Tongtian from mid-air. Just in time. Lin Tongtian laughed heartily. The ice-congealing spear in his hand spun and shot out. Wisps of icy chi swirled around the spear, and with an unstoppable force, it headed straight for the Demon King's sharp claws. Clang! The sound of metal clashing could be heard. Lin Tongtian repelled the Demon King's sharp claws with a single strike. His palm flew up and a frosty palm print landed on the Demon King's chest at lightning speed. Pung! With a single palm strike, it actually caused snow to fall in the sky. Large snowflakes fell from the sky above the hill, and it was a spectacular sight. Ugh! The Demon King spat out a mouthful of blood and fell onto the hill. He held onto his chest, which was already covered with a layer of frost. Demon Tharch Nushi's eyes turned cold and said, Stop embarrassing yourself. Immediately circulate your energy to dispel the icy aura. Otherwise, you won't be able to protect your heart meridian. Yes, Your Majesty. That's enough. Nushi lifted her head to look at Lin Tongtian and smiled. Lord Dragon Rider General is really powerful. Looking at your stance, you want to kill my men in front of me, right? Lin Tongtian smiled respectfully and said, How would I dare? It's just that your subordinates are too overbearing. At this moment, a young dragon rider not far away from Lin Tongtian unsheathed his dragon sword and said, Lord Dragon Rider General, what's there to talk about with these demons? Since we are already here, let's follow the laws of the Empire. Slaying demons is the innate mission of the Tianji dragon riders. Even the demon king was injured by you. We don't have to fear them at all. This young dragon rider was of the sage heaven realm. According to the classification of the utmost heaven's mainland, he was a low-level martial sage martial venerate warrior. He was basically the lowest level dragon rider. His cultivation was still shallow, and therefore he couldn't feel the demon Tharch Nushi's powerful energy. Are you courting death? Nushi suddenly laughed. Demon, you still want to be so arrogant? The young dragon rider shouted in a low voice. His body was surrounded by King's battle flames, and the giant dragon he was riding on roared continuously. You're courting death yourself. Nushi's expression was slightly ferocious as she closed her red lips. Suddenly, a formless energy gathered from all directions and struck the young dragon rider. Oofed! He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Immediately after, blood flowed from his nostrils, eyes, and ears. In the blink of an eye, he fell off the dragon's back and died. He bled to death from his 7 orifices. What happened? The few dragon riders at the side were filled with grief and anger. Lin Muyu, who was on the ground, was also shocked. At that moment, his spiritual pulse technique had already captured Nushi's energy. That was a formless and soundless spatial energy fluctuation. It was truly a killing technique. No one would have thought that Nushi's cultivation would be so high. This attack could be said to have unleashed the destructive power of the spatial laws to the extreme. The high-frequency spatial fluctuation itself was a killing weapon. Nushi, you. Lin Tongtian gritted his teeth. Nushi was still hugging her musical instrument. With an apologetic look on her face, she smiled and said, Lord Dragon Rider, it was your subordinate who was aggressive first. You can't blame me for this. Please don't blame me. After all, we only have a few 100,000 demonic spirits in this small forest of no return. How can we go against the millions of soldiers of the Tianji Empire? A few 100,000. Lin Tongtian was secretly shocked. During the war in the forest of no return a few 100 years ago, the number of demonic spirits had already been reduced to a few thousand. He did not expect that in just a few 100 years, their cultivation had increased to a few 100,000. Nushi's words were not to show weakness. Instead, she was retreating in order to advance. She was warning Lin Tongtian to think twice before acting. If he really started a war, Lin Tongtian himself would not be able to escape. If that's the case, Lin Tongtian stabbed the ice-freezing spear into the pouch beside the dragon's neck and said, Then we shall meet again. We shall meet again. Nushi nodded and looked in the direction of Lin Muyu. She smiled and said, Your Highness, we shall meet again. Chapter 770. The bright sunlight shone on the forest floor as the group returned along the path they came from. A few dragon knights circled in the air to protect them. Zhuang Xiaoyu, Bai Mingjie, and Chen Hang were heavily injured and weakly rode on horseback. Young hero, why did that female assassin call you your highness? Si Kongyao finally couldn't help but ask after holding it in for a long time. I don't know either. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, Perhaps she wasn't calling me but Bai Mingjie. Why me? Bai Mingjie was stunned. She's the demon emperor, and can make predictions. Perhaps the little prince will really ascend to the throne in the future. He said these treasonous words with a straight face. Bai Mingjie's face was very calm, but he couldn't help but be ecstatic. Who didn't want to ascend to the throne? After all, the difference between a prince and an emperor was like heaven and earth. In the air, the giant dragon's wings flapped slowly. Lin Tongtian looked at Si Kongyao with gentle eyes and said, Yao, are you really not going to ride on the giant dragon and leave the forest of no return? Si Kongyao said, No, big brother Xiaoyu and the little prince are both heavily injured and can't stand the cold air. That's fine. Lin Tongtian nodded and revealed a reproachful expression. Yao, you are really too insensible. You actually went to the forest of no return behind Master's back. If I knew you were going to the forest of no return, I'm afraid Master wouldn't have let you come. What kind of place is the forest of no return? It's a place where the demon emperor resides. That female assassin is very powerful, and none of the great saint martial gods of the empire are her match. You guys. Si Kongyao stuck out her tongue and smiled. Uncle Lin Tongtian, we know our mistake. Aren't we following you back now? But our original plan was to travel to the Celestial Empire. So can we go east and directly to the territory of the Celestial Empire through the Forest of No Return? This, Lin Tongtian sighed and said. That's possible, but we still have to be extra careful. The Demon Emperor doesn't have the intention to kill us, but the Demon Kings and Demon Venerables under her can't wait to tear us into pieces. Anyway, we need to speed up our journey and escort you into the territory of the Celestial Empire within 3 days. After that, I'll go back to report on my mission. Yes, thank you, Uncle Lin Tongtian. Lin Tongtian smiled faintly. He had watched Si Kongyao grow up and was like an elder to him. There was no need to explain such feelings. Riding on the giant dragon, Lin Tongtian's gaze swept across Zhuang Xiaoyu, Shi Tianming, Lin Muyu and the rest. Zhuang Xiaoyu was arrogant and had a high cultivation level. He was worthy to be Si Kongyao's friend, but it was hard to say for Shi Tianming. As for that unknown wanderer, Lin Tongtian actually couldn't see through his cultivation level. Ordinary cultivators would intentionally or unintentionally reveal their cultivation level. Take Zhuang Xiaoyu for example. Although he was severely injured, the aura in his body was still circulating. When he circulated his energy to heal his injuries, a faint glow of divine power would appear on the surface of his body. Lin Tongtian could easily see that Zhuang Xiaoyu had 29 paradise cultivation levels, but he couldn't see through Lin Muyu. This young man was like a bottomless abyss. He was like an ancient well with no ripples. In fact, it was impossible to tell whether he had entered the paradise or not. After nightfall, the mountain breeze blew. Lin Muyu, Si Kongyao, Shangqian, and the rest were barbecuing food around the bonfire. The 19 dragon riders were perched on the surrounding hills, protecting the group of royal family members in the valley. Lin Tongtian was silent. He hugged the ice-freezing spear and lay on the neck of the giant dragon. He looked into the distance, and no one knew what he was thinking about. After eating, Lin Muyu returned to his tent alone. His brows were tightly furrowed. He was thinking about something different again. The Tianji Empire was gathering troops, preparing provisions and preparing for war. Judging from the situation, they needed a large number of warships to advance westward to attack the Qin Empire. Including the time needed to forge warships, prepare provisions and prepare weapons, it would take at least another half a year. This also meant that the shattered tripod world still had half a year to prepare for war. What Lin Muyu needed to do was to extend this time as much as possible. Time was very important to both sides, but the Qin Empire obviously needed it more. Without enough time, there would not be enough warships and magic crystal cannons. Moreover, Qin Xiling was taking the time to improve the magic crystal cannons. If they wanted to win the next war, they still needed this kind of powerful weapon. Lying in the tent, he recalled everything that had happened during the day. Suddenly Lin Muyu sat up. She was confused. Just what kind of power did the Nusslayer use to launch a silent and invisible attack to kill a powerful dragon knight from a distance? The power of the law of space was indeed magical. If she could master and control it, wouldn't it be like adding wings to a tiger? Thinking of this, he opened his palm and a small spiritual pearl of law appeared. It was a white spiritual pearl of law of space. With a shake of his palm, the spiritual pearl of law seeped into his palm. Lin Muyu took a deep breath. While thinking about how Nusslayer used her strength to launch the sound wave attack during the day, he gently shook his palm and imitated Nusslayer's route. However, although his every shake caused the pulse of the air, it was far from Nusslayer's lethality. Moreover, there was a faint sound. His realm was much lower. Sound, a silent sound. What kind of power was that? Lin Muyu was puzzled. Although his comprehension was outstanding, this was a realm that he had never touched. He had the strongest spiritual pearl of law of space in the world, but he could not control the strongest power of the law of space. He could not accept such a regret. He must cultivate to the same level as Nusslayer. After an unknown period of time, a dragon rider's voice suddenly came from the hillside outside. Who is it? Come out! Immediately after the sound of metal colliding, dragon roars could be heard. There seemed to be a battle. Lin Muyu opened the tent and flew out. He raised his hand and pulled out the Ice Origin sword. Looking at the hillside, he realized that a dragon rider was already riding on the back of a dragon. The dragon rider shouted, "Lord Lin Tongtian, there was someone sneaking around just now. He has already escaped. Should we chase after him? Is it a demonic spirit?" Lin Tongtian was still hugging the ice-freezing spear and leaning on the black dragon's neck. "No, he doesn't have a strong demonic power. He's a human. His cultivation has already reached Saint Martial Venerable." "Saint Martial Venerable?" Lin Tongtian frowned and said, "Take the first team of 10 people and chase after him. Be careful." Yes. The huge dragons flapped their wings and flew up. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the night sky. "What happened?" Si Kongyao rubbed her sleepy eyes and asked as she came out of the tent. "It seems like a thief," Shang Qian said. "Thief?" Si Kongyao couldn't help but laugh. "Trying to steal from the Tianji dragon riders? Isn't that asking for death? Furthermore, this is the forest of no return. How could there be a thief? It must be someone with bad intentions." At this moment, Zhuang Xiaoyu, Shi Tianming and the others were also woken up. They each walked out of their tents to the campfire outside. Lin Tongtian held the ice-freezing spear and stood up from the huge dragon's side. He said respectfully, "Miss Yao, Miss Shangqian, you're both awake?" "Yes. What's going on?" "I don't know. Anyone who can appear in the forest of no return must not be simple." Lin Tongtian frowned and said, "I'm afraid this is a ploy to lure us away. We'll be safe here. Don't worry. With the Tianji dragon riders here, who would dare to do anything?" Shang Qian bowed and said, "Thank you, Lord Lin Tongtian." "You're welcome, Mississippi." Lin Tongtian was the leader of the 3 dragon riders, and the most powerful warrior in the entire Tianji dragon cavalry except for Bai Minghuan, the commander and marshal of the empire. His status was no less honorable than that of the prime minister, which was why even Shang Qian, Zhuang Xiaoyu, and the others had to be respectful to him. At this moment, a hoarse and miserable howl came from the tent behind him. The scream was very shrill in the middle of the night. "Who is it?" Si Kongyao looked around and said, "Why hasn't Bai Mingjie come out?" "Oh no!" Lin Muyu clenched her teeth. Through the spirit pulse spell, she could sense a very powerful divine power fluctuation from the tent behind them. Someone must be here, and not a weak one at that. Everyone hurried over. When they opened Bai Mingjie's tent, they were all scared out of their wits. Bai Mingjie was lying quietly in the tent with an arrow in his chest. Blood was still flowing. He was dead. The son of the Luo king had been assassinated. Moreover, there was a bloody hole in the middle of Bai Mingjie's eyebrows, as if someone had taken something out of his head. And the item was Bai Mingjie's heavenly Dao lattice. So cruel. Si Kongyao stood there in a daze. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, looked cautiously at the empty space at the side. There were still energy ripples from the space shuttling. Obviously, the assassin had just used his ability to break through the void and left not long ago. In the spirit pulse technique, a strong aura appeared 3 miles away and was quickly leaving. "It must be him. You guys stay here." Lin Tongtian took a deep breath and held the ice coagulation spear. "I'll go after this person. Young hero, young master Xiaoyu, you two guard the 2 ladies. Don't leave and fall into the trap of luring us away. I'll be back soon." "Yes." When Lin Muyu and Zhuang Xiaoyu nodded in agreement, Lin Tongtian had already disappeared. His speed of shattering the void was extremely fast and silent. Si Kongyao frowned slightly. She could not bear to look at Bai Mingjie's corpse. He was the son of the Luo king, the young prince of the empire, and the most powerful person in the younger generation of the royal family. Now that he had died in the forest of no return, it was truly regrettable. "What do we do now?" Si Kongyao asked. "Wait." Lin Muyu's voice was very calm. Whoosh. A few miles away, Lin Tongtian appeared in the air with the ice coagulation spear. With a roar, a black dragon appeared from the alternate dimension. He rode on the dragon and flew forward. It seemed like the assassin was waiting for him there. Under the moonlight, the assassin held a fiery red longsword and wore a black cloak. Even his face was covered. "Are you the one who killed Bai Mingjie?" Lin Tongtian asked. That's right. He smiled casually. An arrow through the heart. The top rookie of the Tianji Empire's royal family is really a piece of trash. Courting death. Lin Tongtian brandished his spear and charged forward. He had used 90% of his power in the first strike. Bam! Flames and frost collided, sparks flying everywhere. The assassin was still standing steadily in the air. He held a long sword in his hand, and at the tip of the blade, a small nomological spirit bead was dancing. Lin Tongtian was horrified. His heart was filled with despair. At the same time, there was a rustling sound in the surrounding forest. One by one, black figures appeared. There was no lack of martial venerables among them. However, they did not attack immediately. Instead, they drew their bows and aimed their arrows at Lin Tongtian, the top dragon rider of the Tianji Empire. Chapter 771. Ah! A sorrowful cry reverberated through the night. This is bad. Lin Muyu's expression changed under the illumination of the bonfire. What's wrong? Si Kongyao asked. Sense Lin Tongtian's aura. Si Kongyao calmed herself down and released her Saint Martial Venerable Cultivation Base's spiritual sense. She found several auras at the limits of her spiritual sense's perception. One of the auras was extremely familiar. It was Lin Tongtian. However, his aura had become extremely weak. It was obvious that Lin Tongtian's current situation wasn't good. A dragon rider's expression changed. Brat, what do you mean? Do you think that Lord Dragon Rider Lin Tongtian is no match for a mere assassin? Do you think that Lin Tongtian is invincible? Lin Muyu asked in return. The dragon rider was instantly speechless. Shang Qian was a little flustered. Then what do we do now? What else can we do? Go and find Lin Tongtian. Lin Muyu pointed into the distance and said, he's in that direction. If we act quickly, we might be able to save his life. The faces of the 9 dragon knights who remained in the camp turned pale. Everyone knew about Lin Tongtian's level of cultivation. There were not many people in the entire Tianji Empire who could be a match for him. What kind of person could put Lin Tongtian in danger? Quick, don't leave anyone in the campsite. Just in case they send people to attack directly. Lin Muyu grabbed Lu Bai's arm and brought him into the air. Meanwhile, Si Kongyao, Chen Hang, and the others didn't have time to worry about the injured and brought Zhuang Xiaoyu and the others over as well. The dragon riders all mounted their giant dragons, spreading their wings and following closely behind. The moonlight was tranquil, and the open ground within the forest was a sea of blood. 2 incomplete corpses lay on the desolate grassland. Their bodies seemed to have been chopped into 4 or 5 pieces. Fresh blood and blood-red internal organs were scattered all over the ground. A thick smell of blood filled the surroundings, causing Lu Bai to hurriedly cover his mouth and nose. He almost vomited. Has Lord Lin Tongtian died in battle? Zhuang Xiaoyu was shocked. Lin Muyu's eyes swept across the field as she said, no, the clothes on these corpses don't belong to Lin Tongtian, but he's injured. Why are you so sure? Zhuang Xiaoyu was stunned. Lin Muyu didn't say much to him. Instead, she walked towards a nearby boulder and said, Lord Dragon Rider, come out. They've left. It's just us. Ah. A stifled howl could be heard from behind the rock. It was Lin Tongtian's voice. You guys can walk over on your own. I can't walk anymore. Uncle Lin. Si Kongyao hurriedly rushed over, and she was immediately frightened to the point that her beautiful face paled. She saw the Tianji Empire's #1 dragon rider sitting miserably on a rock. His entire left arm had been chopped off, and the cut was still flowing with blood. In addition, the armor on his body was full of holes, and there were 2 arrows embedded in his chest. There was also a wound on his leg that had been pierced by a spear. Who is it? Si Kongyao asked in a trembling voice as tears flowed down her face. Lin Tongtian shook his head. I don't know yet. Yao, hurry. Hurry up and use the golden wound ointment to stop the bleeding. My sea of energy is starting to leak out of my cultivation. If we don't stop it now, I'm afraid. Si Kongyao always had the golden wound ointment on her. She knelt beside Lin Tongtian and applied the ointment and bandaged his wound. However, The wound on Lin Tongtian's abdomen was extremely frightening. Wisps of golden light were leaking out of his sea of energy. The wound was small, but it was continuously leaking out of Lin Tongtian's cultivation. If she didn't stop it now, Lin Tongtian would probably become a cripple in 6 hours. What should we do? What should we do? Shang Qian was at a loss. Si Kongyao, on the other hand, was much calmer. Her pretty face was filled with sadness and anger. She opened her palm slightly and the power of the ice mystic formula circulated, quickly sealing the wound on Lin Tongtian's sea of energy. Although it couldn't heal him completely, it could at least stop the leakage of divine power. This way, Lin Tongtian could rely on his own cultivation to stop the leakage of divine power. Lin Muyu stood quietly at the side and didn't take the initiative to help. This wasn't because he was selfish, but because there were things that he shouldn't do. He had never been a good person. The Tianji Empire would become the enemy of Great Qin sooner or later, and Lin Tongtian's cultivation was destined to be one of the generals of the Tianji Empire. If he healed Lin Tongtian now, and Lin Tongtian's hands were stained with the blood of the soldiers of the Qin Empire in the future, he could only blame it on Lin Muyu. His bottom line was not to kill Lin Tongtian here. If he wanted to kill him, he had to do it on the battlefield. The 9 dragon knights rode on their giant dragons and circled the area, looking for the assailants. However, they couldn't find them. Only heaven knew who the assailants were, and where they went. Don't let them go too far. Lin Tongtian opened his eyes and said weakly, "That group of people is still around. Their target is us. Don't go too far." "Yes, Lord." A dragon knight rode on a giant dragon and bowed respectfully. Si Kongyao said softly, "Uncle Lin, could it be that you can't even tell who the opponent is? With your cultivation, how many people can seriously injure you?" Lin Tongtian laughed bitterly. "They were all masked, so I can only judge based on their strength. The person who chopped off my arm is a Saint Martial King. He has the cultivation of the 52nd Grotto Heaven stage, and his godhead is actually a 3rd-grade caste immortal godhead. After he summoned the Spirit Pearl of Law, the attack he launched was not something I could defend against." Si Kongyao was stunned. Caste immortal godhead. Caste immortal godhead. There were not many caste immortal godheads in the heavenly pole continent. The identity of the person who came seemed to be obvious. There were many Saint Martial Kings in the Wolf Valley, and their godheads were the most secretive. The 52nd Grotto Heaven stage and caste immortal godhead could only be a cultivator in the Wolf Valley. However, the Wolf Valley had always stood aloof from worldly affairs. Why would they come to the Forest of No Return, kill Bai Mingjie, injure Lin Tongtian, and publicly make an enemy of the Tianji Empire? Si Kongyao could not understand. At this moment Lin Muyu asked, "Does the person with the caste immortal godhead cultivate the law of fire?" "Yes, young hero." "How do you know?" Lin Tongtian was stunned. Lin Muyu pointed to the west and said, "About 7 miles away in that direction, there is an extremely strong law of fire rippling. If I'm not wrong, it should be this person." 7 miles away, Lin Tongtian shuddered. "Oh no, what's wrong, Lord?" a dragon knight asked. 7 miles to the west is where Fan Rue and the other dragon knights are patrolling. They are going for Fan Rue and the others. Lin Tongtian's expression changed drastically. He said, "Quick, release the wolf falcons and order Fan Rue and the others to gather here immediately. Only when we are together will we have the strength to fight against this group of foreign invaders. Quick." "Yes, Lord." The wolf falcons soared into the sky, but no one knew if they were still useful. Lin Muyu remained silent. He was the only one here who had cultivated the spirit pulse technique, and he was also the one with the best observation skills. From the spirit pulse technique, he could sense that the powers of a few dragon knights had disappeared. Even the aura of their giant dragons had disappeared. Fan Rue and the other dragon knights were definitely not in a good state. What should we do now? Shi Tianming was already trembling. In his opinion, dragon knights were the most powerful beings. Many dragon knights were gods who rode on giant dragons. But from the looks of it, these gods had actually become the targets of others. They did not even have the strength to resist. What a tragic scene it was. "Let's wait for daybreak." Lin Muyu looked up at the sky and said, "Let's wait until daybreak." Otherwise, we will only be at a disadvantage when they are in the dark and we are in the light. Lini, start a fire here. We will protect Lord Lin Tongtian until daybreak. All right. Lu Bai did not dare to go too far. He could only pick up some withered trees that had not sprouted in spring and burn them. Not long after, a bonfire rose up and illuminated the surroundings. It also brought a trace of warmth to the heavily injured Lin Tongtian. Lin Muyu held his long sword and paced around the grassland where the battle had just taken place. The ground was crisscrossed with traces of battle. He could not understand. Based on the abilities of this group of ambushers, they could have chopped off one of Lin Tongtian's arms. Why did they not kill him? Lin Tongtian had already lost his ability to fight. It was just a matter of finishing him off. It was too simple. Suddenly, something in the grass was reflecting a golden light. Lin Muyu bent down to pick it up. He discovered that it was a golden badge the size of a palm. There was a flame pattern on it, and it was stained with blood and mud. After wiping it clean, he realized that the workmanship was very exquisite. He walked back and said, "What is this? Do you recognize it?" "Ah." Si Kongyao took the badge. Her pretty face was instantly covered with a layer of frost. She said with a murderous look, "It's the Thunderblaze sect. It's actually the Heavendam Thunderblaze sect." Humph. Is the Blackstone Empire openly declaring war on the Tianji Empire? What is the Thunderblaze sect? Lin Muyu asked. Zhuang Xiaoyu, who was at the side, explained, "Young hero, you may not know this, but the Thunderblaze sect is one of the 3 sacred sects of the mainland. It is also the national sect of the Blackstone Empire. If this group of people really came from the Thunderblaze sect, then it makes sense." "What do you mean?" Lin Muyu continued to ask. Zhuang Xiaoyu smiled faintly. The leader of the Thunderblaze sect, Longxi, is a peerless genius. He stepped into the divine state at the age of 27, so he always looks like he is in his 20s. He is very young, and he also has the forged deity lattice. He cultivates in the law of ice and fire. But that's not right. The person who injured Uncle Lin was in the 52nd heaven realm, and Longxi had already reached the 92nd heaven realm a few hundred years ago. That's not right. Si Kongyao nodded and pondered for a while. She said, "Could it be that he deliberately lowered his cultivation to create the illusion that the Wolf Valley attacked us, so as to cause a war between the Tianji Empire and the Wolf Valley?" "It's hard to say." Zhuang Xiaoyu said, "The Blackstone Empire has always been the weaker of the 3 empires. If we start a war with the Wolf Valley, they will be happy to see it." Lin Tongtian, who was lying on the ground, said, "Stop making wild guesses. Now, what we need to think about is how to get out of here alive." In the distance, the wind was whistling. Lord Dragon Knight, Fan Rue and the others are back. Chapter 772. Only 3 people returned. The 3 Dragon Knights, including Fan Rue, stumbled down from the sky and landed on the ground. One of them even fell directly to the ground with his dragon. There was a huge wound on the dragon's wing, and the entire wing seemed to have been chopped off by a sword. Fan Rue was also heavily injured. His face was covered in blood, and there were several sword wounds on his legs and shoulders. There was even an arrow stuck in his back, almost piercing through his heart. "Help me up," Lin Tongtian said shakily. Si Kongyao hurriedly helped Lin Tongtian up. "Sir." Fan Rue flipped down from the dragon's back. His face was full of depression, and his eyes were bloodshot. He knelt on one knee and refused to get up. "I have failed you, sir. We were ambushed. The attackers were very strong. We suffered heavy losses. 7 of our dragon riders died in battle. The 3 of us were lucky enough to escape and return to see sir." As he spoke, Fan Rue raised his head and saw that one of Lin Tongtian's arms was missing. He shuddered. "Sir, your arm." Lin Tongtian felt an inexplicable chill in his heart. "Don't blame yourself. They ambushed me first, and then went to ambush you. All the blame is on me. I, Lin Tongtian, thought too highly of myself and underestimated the enemy. As a result, everyone was harmed." "No, it's not sir's fault." Fan Rue held on to a broken dragon sword. His face was ashen. "Our brothers who died in battle will not blame anyone. They were protecting our territory and sacrificed their lives for our country. Sir, don't blame yourself. Lin Tongtian took a deep breath. They killed the dragon riders. Did they take the dragon away? Dragons were one of the most conspicuous treasures in the celestial pole continent. They had a long lifespan, and their mating and childbirth periods were also very long. Their birth rate was also very low. As a result, there were only about 1,000 dragon riders in the celestial pole continent. Every dragon cost a lot. The gold coins needed to nurture a dragon rider army was definitely equivalent to the taxes of a province. They didn't, Fan Rui said. Those bastards killed the dragon and took the dragon crystal. They only wanted to kill, not to take the dragon. Those bastards. Lin Tongtian took a deep breath. How many wolf falcons do we have left? 2. Send one to Tianji City to ask for help. Yes. Lin Muyu said. I'm afraid the wolf falcon might not be able to reach Tianji City, right? I know, but this is also a chance for us. Lin Tongtian glanced at Lin Muyu and said, Young hero, you don't seem to be afraid at all? What's the point of being afraid? Lin Muyu crossed her arms and spoke in a carefree manner. Yes, if fear worked, then everyone would be saved. Si Kongyao supported Lin Tongtian and asked, Uncle Lin, what should we do now? Travel during the day and gather together to rest at night. Do not separate. Lin Tongtian sighed. We'll be safe once we enter the Celestial Empire's official road. There are troops from the Celestial Empire around the official road. As long as we ask for their help, they will definitely help us. Yes, that's the only way. Lin Muyu didn't mind. He just wanted to see what the Celestial Empire's troops were like. The Celestial Empire occupied 40% of the entire Celestial Pole continent. They would be one of the strongest enemies in the future. They had to know their enemies well. After daybreak, everyone cooked and ate. Then they continued their journey. This time, they didn't have to worry about any injuries. They split up, either flying or riding dragons. They tried their best to fly out of the forest of no return before nightfall, and escape from this land cursed by death. The wind whistled. Lin Muyu held Lu Bai's arm with one hand, and carried him in the front. Behind them were 12 giant dragons flying slowly. Lin Tongtian's giant dragon had been killed in order to protect him. It was beheaded and abandoned in the wilderness. Lin Tongtian didn't even allow his subordinates to retrieve the dragon crystal. Although the dragon crystal was the most precious part of a giant dragon, Lin Tongtian couldn't bear to do so. After all, it was a mount that had accompanied him for many years. After flying for less than 2 hours, a faint aura came from the clouds in front of them. In the blink of an eye, Lin Muyu's spiritual pulse detection technique detected a large number of powerful auras. She couldn't help but frown and said, Not good. There's something in the sky in front of us. There's something in the sky? Dragon Knight Fan Rui was stunned. What could it be? Lin Tongtian squinted his eyes and said loudly, Land. We can't fly anymore. It's the sting bees. That's right. Although the sting bees were only 6th-tier demon spirits, there was a large number of them. Once they were surrounded by thousands of sting bees. Even the Saint Martial God might not be able to escape safely. Zhuang Xiaoyu waved his purple gold fan and said, Land. The giant dragons swooped down. When everyone landed, they looked up and saw a dense swarm of sting bees covering the sky. There were at least tens of thousands of them. It turned out that Monster Emperor Nushi wasn't lying when she said there were hundreds of thousands of demon spirits in the forest of no return. Lin Tongtian's scalp went numb. He said, How terrifying. If they are given another 1,000 years, all these sting bees will become Demon King Bee Emperors. I'm afraid, this celestial pole continent will no longer be the territory of humans. They don't seem to want to attack us. Lin Muyu saw some clues. Shang Qian nodded. Yes, they seem to want to force us to the ground. Si Kongyao and Zhuang Xiaoyu frowned. Landing on the ground meant that their speed would be greatly reduced. Anyway, they wouldn't be able to leave the forest of no return today. At night, those killers might come again, right? At this thought, everyone's hearts were filled with despair. After traveling 100 miles in a day, night fell as scheduled. Lin Tongtian chose a valley to set up camp. A few dragon knights were stationed outside. After killing a rocky goat, they skinned it and removed its innards. Lu Bai placed it on a spear and roasted it. However, everyone was so suffocated by the feeling of death that they couldn't even detect the aroma of meat. After a quick meal, they all fell asleep around the campfire. Lin Muyu lay on Lu Bai's luggage and closed her eyes. However, she couldn't fall asleep no matter what. Ripples came from the spiritual pulse technique again. A group of auras were hiding about 5 miles away, not too far away, not too near, waiting for the best opportunity to strike. However, they still didn't make a move until dawn. Even when Shang Qian helped Chen Hang to relieve himself and left the valley, they still didn't make a move. Could it be that Shang Qian and Chen Hang weren't important enough for them to make a move? Lin Muyu frowned. The sun was about to rise. She might as well sleep for a while. Not long after, a rustling sound came from beside her. It was Si Kongyao who had woken up. She took a water bag and said softly, "I'll go get some water to wash Uncle Lin Tongtian's wounds. Otherwise, they might ulcerate." Lin Tongtian said, "Okay, be careful. Get close to him and don't go too far." "I know. Don't worry. I'm not a lamb waiting to be slaughtered." Si Kongyao laughed softly. She was still very confident in her own strength. After Si Kongyao got up, Lin Muyu couldn't sleep again. She flipped over and grabbed the Ice Origin sword. She patted Lu Bai's shoulder and said, "I'm going to relieve myself. You sleep well." "Okay." Lu Bai was still sleepy. "Get up early and come back early. Don't get killed. F***CK. Don't you wish for me to be well?" Lin Muyu said angrily, her figure disappearing into the darkness before dawn, trailing after Si Kongyao. He had almost completely blended his aura into the surroundings. This was the profoundness of the spiritual pulse technique. In terms of hiding one's aura, it was not inferior to Bai Yin's tortoise-breathing technique. Under the moonlight, Si Kongyao held a water bag and flew at a low altitude like a fairy. The nearest stream was less than a kilometer away. It was relatively safe. However, Lin Muyu didn't think so. The aura of the assassins was still less than 5 kilometers away. However, one of them had disappeared. Just like the previous time, the spirit pulse technique could only detect his aura when he attacked. This person also had a knack for hiding aura. When Si Kongyao bent down to get water from the stream, that aura appeared again. Whoosh! A black shadow dashed through the bamboo forest. A murderous rapier went straight for Si Kongyao's back. Hua! An ice shield appeared and blocked this person's attack almost perfectly. Si Kongyao seemed to be prepared. Her pretty face was filled with anger. "Are you the one who chopped off Lin Tongtian's arm?" "That's right, it's me." The person was very calm. The light of the fire rule spirit bead shone around his blade. He smiled faintly and said, "Si Kongyao, you can die now." Indeed, this person's target was only Si Kongyao. To him, even Shang Qian was not as meaningful as Si Kongyao's death. The sword light was like fire. In an instant he attacked 7 to 8 times, breaking Si Kongyao's ice mystic arts. The dignified Tianji sect's first mistress was actually unable to retaliate under this person's attack. Pong! With a kick, Si Kongyao's abdomen was injured. She spat out a mouthful of blood and fell into the bamboo forest. The impact of her body was so strong that she only stopped after crushing the entire bamboo forest. Die. The person's sword aura flew like a shuttle. However, at this moment, his heart suddenly trembled. Someone was coming from behind, and it was also an expert. Wang. A whirlpool of flames wrapped around an ice frost sword. The assassin could not react in time, and could only forcefully block it with his long sword. Dang. At the same time that the long sword was shaken off, a leg wrapped in a whirlpool kicked at him. During the intense battle, the assassin was actually distracted. He took a glance at the attacker. It was the most inconspicuous person among Si Kongyao's group. This young man dressed in a paladin attire looked like he had an ordinary cultivation. However, his sword contained the divine power of the 22nd Grotto Heaven Realm cultivation. Furthermore, it was 2 to 3 times stronger than an ordinary martial venerables. It actually caused the assassin's palm to reverberate with a sense of shock. The hilt of the sword was turned upside down, and he slammed down violently towards Lin Muyu's ankle. Such a fast speed. If this attack landed, it would at least shatter Lin Muyu's ankle. He could not fight it head-on. In the blink of an eye, Lin Muyu turned around and retracted her left leg. Her body was in the air, and she kicked towards the assassin's lower body. Good leg technique. Chapter 773. This set of leg technique was as fast as lightning and was closely linked, making it impossible for one to defend against it. However, it still couldn't cause any damage to the assassin. When the boot landed on his abdomen, it was blocked by a golden light wall. It was the divine wall. Any God state expert would have a chance to comprehend the divine wall when they broke through to the 30th paradise. The higher the talent, the higher the chance. It was enough to show that the assassin in front of them was definitely a talented person. With a swing of the blade, Lin Muyu's next round of attack was forcefully pushed back. There was a burning sensation around his body. The force field that the assassin had condensed was really scorching. With a sudden turn of his body, the assassin raised his palm and struck out. The raging flames in his palm expanded instantly. It was as though a huge flaming palm was pouncing towards Lin Muyu's face. The murderous aura was terrifying. Lin Muyu didn't have any time to react at all. He raised his fist subconsciously, and the 7 luminaries' profound force was filled up in the blink of an eye. The space started to distort. All the 7 luminaries' profound force seemed to be concentrated at one point, and went straight for the opponent's palm. For luminaries' demon and God's cry. Bang! The flames and the purple 7 luminaries' profound force burst out. The assassin's body swayed on the spot and stood firm. As for Lin Muyu, he was actually pushed back by nearly 10 meters by the collision. The difference in their cultivation level was obvious at a glance. The waves of God's tide on his fist were attacking and numbing his nerves. His entire left arm felt as though it was about to be burned off. Lin Muyu was covered in cold sweat. The waves of his opponent's 50-second paradise were too fierce, and he almost couldn't bear it. After all, one was a hierarch and the other was a divine king. Moreover, his opponent had the forged immortal physique. The difference was too big. As though he had seen through the truth of Lin Muyu's strength, the vigilance in the assassin's eyes decreased. He held his sword and smiled. If this is all you have, then you can die now. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. He swung his sword gently and frost danced around. It was the prelude to the icy jade frost's attack. Pa! Fallen leaves fluttered in the air, and under the impact of the airflow, Lin Muyu once again clashed with her opponent. Her sword continuously slashed with the penetrative power of jade snow ice, and streams of ice and snow splattered in all directions. The assassin did not dare to underestimate her either. He directly took out his spirit pearl of law, greatly increasing his divine power. Every sword strike brought with it a scorching flame. After nearly 10 rounds, Lin Muyu's power began to weaken, and she was no longer able to maintain her strongest attacks under the opponent's domain force field. What a pity! A talent like you is going to die like this. The assassin leaped up, and rings of raging flames descended from the sky, imprisoning Lin Muyu on the ground like a cage. Law spirit beads surged around the blade of his sword, and a mighty strike descended from the sky. He actually planned to use this strike to directly kill Lin Muyu? Phew! Lin Muyu lowered her body and took a deep breath. A crescent moon-shaped energy seeped into the blade of her sword. At the same time, with a loud shout, the fire and ice law spirit beads flew out of her body, and she unleashed a falling moon river straight at her opponent. Boom! Flames and ice exploded in the sky, crashing in all directions. A loud sound rang through the clouds. In just a moment, Lin Tongtian and the others would definitely hear the news and rush over. There wasn't much time left for this assassin. But what Lin Muyu didn't expect was that River Falling Moon would actually be completely defeated by the opponent's Law of Fire. Her attack instantly crumbled, and the assassin's sword slashed through her protective astral energy. Pooh! A wound appeared on Lin Muyu's chest, and fresh blood flowed out. What? When the assassin saw the 2 law spirit beads around Lin Muyu's arm, he was dumbfounded. Could it be that this brat also had a forged immortal fate? Thinking of this, he couldn't let this brat live anymore. The assassin's figure descended with the wind, and his legs grabbed onto Lin Muyu's right arm with lightning speed. His fist descended from the sky, and with a paw, it landed on her wrist, and the Ice Origin sword instantly flew out of her hand. Be careful. In the bamboo forest, the heavily injured Si Kongyao felt a chill in her heart. Seeing that Lin Muyu was about to be killed, she actually felt a heart-wrenching pain. Was this an illusion? Between life and death, Lin Muyu's battle experience showed itself. Not only did she not panic, she even responded calmly. After the Ice Origin sword flew out of her hand, she suddenly opened her right hand, and a golden light exploded in the night. This was the light of dawn ability of the gourd martial spirit. In an instant, the assassin's eyes were almost blinded, and he screamed in pain. Shwa shwa shwa. The little demonic noise blade at her waist spun in her left hand, and Lin Muyu slashed out without thinking. Poochie. Blood splattered everywhere, and the assassin's wrist was directly cut open. The demonic noise blade's high-speed spin had broken through the god wall, and left a bone-deep wound on his wrist. Bastard! The assassin flew into a rage. The instant he flipped over from above Lin Muyu, his fist landed on Lin Muyu's back. Pung! Under the heavy fist, Lin Muyu flew into the bamboo forest on the other side like a cannonball. Bamboo leaves swirled in the air, and a few frightened hares ran into the distance. Ga. The assassin wiped away the blood from the corner of his mouth, and a burning pain came from his wrist. He used the sword in his right hand to support his body, and step by step, he walked towards Lin Muyu. His face was full of killing intent as he said, "I will kill you. I will kill you." However, at this time, the voice of a dragon knight came from the sky. "Miss Si Kongyao, where are you?" The dragon knight had come. The assassin was startled. If he stayed any longer, he might be at a great disadvantage. After all, he was already injured. His gaze fell on the bamboo forest. That brat was only seriously injured, but not dead. How could he be willing to give up? Shwa. The spatial wall was torn open, but he still left. Compared to his life, killing was nothing. Yao Lin Tongtian's voice came from the sky. His dragon had already been killed, and he could only fly by himself. He held the frozen ice spear in his hand and flew over. He put down the spear and helped Si Kongyao, whose white clothes were stained with blood. Lin Tongtian was so scared that his face turned pale. "Yao, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Si Kongyao shook her head and pointed to the bamboo forest in the distance. Quick, go and see the young hero. His injuries are even worse. If not for him, Yao would have been killed by the assassin." The dragon knight Fan Rui leaped down from the dragon's back and found the pitiful Lin Muyu in a pile of broken bamboo. There was a sword wound on his chest, and 2 of the bones in his back seemed to have been broken. However, his complexion was still good, and at least there was life in his eyes. "Don't move." Lin Muyu's voice was weak. "Lord Fan Rui, please let me lie down. Don't move. I need to heal my injuries and bones first. Otherwise, I'm afraid there will be trouble." Fan Rui nodded in agreement. At this time, the other dragon knights had also landed. They looked at Lin Muyu, but they did not look down on him. Instead, they felt a sense of admiration. The assassins were obviously the same group of people from before. Even someone as strong as Lin Tongtian had his arm chopped off by them. On the other hand, not only did Lin Muyu save Si Kongyao, but he also saved his own life. It was enough to show how high his cultivation was. Just like that, Lin Muyu lay quietly in the dewy bamboo forest. He closed his eyes and guided the supreme divine powers in his body to unclog the bruises in his meridians and speed up the recovery and healing of his bones. A part of his supreme divine powers originated from Fushi's divine powers, and he was born with a strong self-healing ability. Not long after, his broken bones began to heal on their own. However, it would take at least half a day for them to fully heal. At this time, Lin Tongtian supported Si Kongyao as they walked over. Si Kongyao had already finished applying the medicine. She knelt beside Lin Muyu and said, "Young hero, thank you for saving me. You were injured so badly. It's all right." Lin Muyu looked straight at the sky, which was gradually brightening. To be able to exchange blows with such an expert is one of the happiest things in life. "First mistress, you don't have to worry about it." Lin Tongtian frowned and asked, "Young hero, since you've exchanged blows with this person, Did you notice anything? The law of fire and the cast immortal character. Other than that, I don't know anything else. His martial arts are sometimes domineering and sometimes tricky. It's hard to defend against. Furthermore, this person is probably targeting First Mistress Si Kongyao. Are they here for Ayao? Why? Lin Tongtian was stunned. Lin Muyu smiled. I don't know either. However, Lord Lin Tongtian, can you imagine what would happen if Si Kongyao was assassinated? Lin Tongtian pondered deeply for a moment. Ayao is the apple of Master's eye. If Ayao has really been harmed, then Master will surely be enraged. At that time, the entire Empyrean sect will launch a war. So long as we find out who did it, no matter if it's the Darkstone Empire or the Heavenly Jew Empire, a war will surely be unavoidable. That's right. That's his motive. But Lin Tongtian was only a martial artist. He did not know much about tactics and schemes. He said, but if the Thunder Ember sect does this, wouldn't they be creating trouble for the Blackstone Empire? The Blackstone Empire's military is not even half of the Tianji sect's. Although the Thunder Ember sect is one of the 3 saint sects, they are far from being comparable to the Tianji sect. Why would they seek trouble for themselves? I'm afraid it might not be the Thunder Ember sect. Lin Muyu said. No matter how stupid Lin Tongtian was, he had already figured it out. Could it be that someone is trying to frame the Thunder Ember sect? I'm not sure. Lin Muyu shook her head. We can't be sure for now. Anyone can be a suspect. Anyway, Lord Lin Tongtian, you just have to protect Lady Si Kongyao for the time being. Yes, I will. Lin Tongtian looked at the sky and said, it's almost dawn. Let's get ready to set off. I'll order someone to cut down bamboo and make a stretcher for you. This way, it won't affect our journey. We can enter the official road of the Celestial Empire before nightfall and seek refuge with their army. At least for now, the Tianji Empire and the Celestial Empire are still on good terms. Yes, I'll leave it to you. Lin Muyu nodded. She felt a wave of fatigue and fell into a deep sleep. Chapter 774. When he woke up again, it was already dusk. When Lin Muyu opened his eyes, he found that his body was swaying. He was on a stretcher, and although the wound on his chest had been bandaged, there was still a burning pain. The bones in his back had partially healed, but the faint pain was unbearable. The dense forest above him receded, and when he looked up, he saw the back of a dragon knight in dragon armor. It was rare to see 2 dragon knights carrying a stretcher. It was not easy to have such treatment. You're awake? On a horse, Si Kongyao looked at him with a smile. Yes, we're out of the forest of no return. Yes, we were out of the forest of no return in the afternoon. Now we're on the official road of the Celestial Empire. Si Kongyao pursed her lips and pointed to the front, saying, we showed our identification, and the Celestial Empire's garrison general sent 1,000 troops to escort us. Lin Muyu nodded and looked around. There were soldiers with swords all around them. These people were the army of the Celestial Empire. The Tianju Empire was the largest country, and its emblem was an aggressive wolf's head. These soldiers' arms and clothes were embroidered with a copper wolf's head. All of them were silent and only knew how to hurry forward. Where are we going now? Lin Muyu asked again. This time, it was Shang Qian who answered him on the left, to Laohan City, the capital of the Celestial Empire. We are now in the Tianju province, where Laohan City is located. It will only take 3 days to get to Laohan City. Coincidentally, at noon, we received a letter from the Wolf Falcon. It was a letter of credence, about the engagement between the 3rd princess, Her Highness Bai Mingchang, and the 2nd prince of the Celestial Empire, Chen Yu. So this time we are on a diplomatic mission to the Celestial Empire. She paused and said, perhaps if we have the identity of an envoy, the assassins will not dare to do anything to us. Oh, Lin Muyu responded and did not speak again. Just like what Shang Qian had said, they didn't encounter any more unforeseen events until nighttime. After all, there were 1,000 soldiers protecting them, so those assassins would naturally have some restraints. There were countless deity realm experts in the heavenly great continent, so the army naturally had a way to deal with deity realm experts. As for the specifics, This was something that Lin Muyu also wanted to know. On the first night, they camped in the wilderness, safe and sound. By the evening of the next day, the team had already entered a relatively prosperous county city. The population had increased, and the number of troops guarding along the way had also increased. In terms of the number of troops, the Celestial Empire had 1.5 million people, which was almost twice the number of troops of the Tianji Empire. However, the combat ability of the troops was far inferior to that of the Tianji Empire. They were poor in resources, and there were only 2 sacred martial gods. Otherwise, the Celestial Empire would have long declared war on the Tianji Empire. Sir Dragon Rider, let's rest in the inn up ahead tonight. We'll set off tomorrow morning, and arrive at Frosty City in the evening. The accompanying Chiliarch said respectfully. Although Lin Tongtian had lost an arm, he still had at least 70% of his strength. To these ordinary soldiers, Lin Tongtian was still a superior existence. Yes, thank you for your trouble, General. You're welcome. Lin Muyu had already started riding on his own. He had a board on his back to protect his newly healed bones. This kind of treatment method amazed Si Kongyao, Zhuang Xiaoyu and the others. They had never seen such a strange treatment method before. Taiyuan County, a prosperous county city in Tianjua Province. At night, the county city was bustling with activity as the lanterns were lit. The banquet was hosted by the princess's residence. After dinner, they returned to the inn. Lin Tongtian needed to rest, but the few young people could not contain their excitement. After all, they had stayed in the forest of no return for nearly 10 days. They did not eat well or dress well. Now that they were finally in the bustling city, they naturally wanted to go out for a walk. Moreover, the county city of the Celestial Empire was very exotic to them. They could not miss it. We're just going out for a walk. We'll be back in a short while. Si Kongyao pouted and persuaded Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu did not want to go out. He wanted to take advantage of the time when he was injured to study the technique of using the law of space that he had secretly learned from the Demon Emperor Nusslayer. He shook his head and said, "No, I'm tired. I want to rest early." However, Shi Tianming blinked his eyes and said, "Young hero, let's go out and take a look. The Celestial Empire is different from the Tianji Empire. It is said that the women of the Celestial Empire are hot and passionate. They are much more open than the women of our country. Since we are all here, why should we stay in the room alone? Don't you think so?" Lin Muyu was a little speechless. Bai Mingjie's ashes had not been properly placed, but this group of people actually had the mood to go out and play. It seemed that they did not have much of a relationship with Bai Mingjie in Tianji City. At this moment, Shang Qian also persuaded. "I know that young hero is worried about safety. Don't worry, no one would dare to kill anyone in the prefecture city. Not to mention this is the famous Taiyuan prefecture. There are 10,000 guards in the prefecture city. No one would dare to kill anyone here. Otherwise, they would be wanted by the entire Celestial Empire." Lin Muyu could not help but smile. "Miss Shang Qian, you are thinking too simply. That assassin is a sacred martial king. So what if there are many people in the army? That's not necessarily true." Shang Qian smiled and said, "In front of an army of thousands upon thousands of men and horses, even the Saint Martial God would be captured as long as a single demonic heart arrow hits." "Demon heart arrow? Yes, don't you know?" Si Kongyao, who was at the side, widened her eyes and said, "This is the weapon that the armies of the 3 empires are equipped with, the demon heart arrow. The arrowhead is tempered with the essence of the demon heart stone. As long as the demon heart arrow penetrates the skin and fuses with the blood vessels, the essence of the demon heart stone will naturally plant the demon heart in the body of the god-level expert, and he will not be able to use any divine power." As she spoke, Si Kongyao pulled out a black arrow from the quiver on the back of a guard and said, "This is it. Look at it yourself. The arrowhead is tempered with the essence of the demon heart stone. The demon heart stone is born to suppress the power of the gods. As long as the essence of the demon heart stone enters the body, even the top experts of the 99-level grotto heavens will lose their cultivation within 2 hours." Lin Muyu's heart sank when she heard this. Planting the demon heart. That's amazing. Are there many of these demon heart stones? Not too many, but not too few either. Si Kongyao patted his shoulder and said with a smile, Don't worry so much. Don't worry, the armies here won't do anything to us. Moreover, even if the demon heart arrow is the nemesis of god-level experts, it must at least be able to hit the target. Therefore, the sacred martial kings and sacred martial gods who have the ability of the divine wall won't care about the demon heartstone at all. Lin Muyu nodded. And alright then. Let's go shopping then. Luckily, there weren't many god-level experts in the Shattered Cauldron realm. This demon heartstone could become a weapon for the Shattered Cauldron realm to deal with the celestial pole continent. It was just that she didn't know how to control it for the time being. When she had the chance, she must study it properly. At night, the streets were brightly lit. The culture here was almost exactly the same as that of the Shattered Cauldron realm. The most prosperous areas in Taiyuan County were almost all occupied by restaurants, weapon shops, brothels, and gambling houses. Zhuang Xiaoyu, Shi Tianming, and the others were all famous people and naturally wouldn't gamble. Moreover, with the two great beauties Si Kongyao and Shang Qian following them, they looked serious and didn't even look sideways when they passed by the brothels. However, Lin Muyu couldn't help but take a few more glances and said with a smile, "Io, the women of the Celestial Empire are really passionate. All the clothes on that dancer added up are only the size of a palm. Is there still any law? Ha ha ha." Seeing that his eyes were about to pop out, Si Kongyao also got angry out of nowhere. She grabbed Lin Muyu's wrist and pulled him away. Panting with rage, she said, "What are you looking at? Be careful, or you'll get a needle hole if you look too much. You're really too young and hot-blooded. You can't even resist this small temptation." Shang Qian giggled. Lu Bai looked at his brows and said with a smile, "Young hero Miss Sikong is jealous. You mustn't look at other women. If you want to look, you can only look at her." "Did I?" Lin Muyu was at a loss. Si Kongyao's face was flushed red. She actually didn't refute Lu Bai's words. Zhuang Xiaoyu's face was pale. No one knew what he was thinking. He probably thought that Si Kongyao had no chance in this lifetime. It was obvious that after Lin Muyu saved her in the Forest of No Return, Si Kongyao's attitude towards Lin Muyu had become much more intimate. She seemed to have the intention of secretly giving her heart to Lin Muyu. Although Lin Muyu wanted to befriend Si Kongyao because her identity was too special, she didn't want to take advantage of Si Kongyao's feelings for her. She said with a smile, "Bai, don't talk nonsense. Why would Miss Sikong like me? Besides, I already have a sweetheart in my hometown." He looked at Si Kongyao with a smile and said, "Miss, if you want to thank me for saving you, just treat me to a big meal late at night. It seems that the food in those restaurants must be very fragrant. I can smell it from afar." Si Kongyao felt a little disappointed for no reason. She wanted to ask who his sweetheart was, but she was the miss of the Tianji sect after all. Such a noble identity did not allow her to lower herself. She said with a smile, "You actually want to eat more after eating so much delicious food in the princess residence. You're really a foodie. But let's talk about it after we walk around for a while." Okay. Lin Muyu's gaze fell on the shops on both sides again. It was time to think of a way to get some demonic spirit stones. In the celestial pole continent, the demonic spirit stones were the most attractive things to Lin Muyu, followed by the demonic heart stone. Both of them were very important. The demonic spirit stones could greatly increase the strength of the few god state experts in the shattered tripod world, while the demonic heart stone would be a sharp weapon in the future. Besides, Lin Muyu also had a plan. The white diamond arrowhead of the shattered tripod world was very sharp. If a sanctuary expert drew the bow, it would be able to penetrate the god state expert's divine power wall. If the demonic heart stone was refined into the arrowhead of the white diamond, this kind of arrow would simply be a nightmare for the god state expert. As long as it was used properly, it might not be impossible for a sanctuary expert to kill a god state expert. However, after thinking about it carefully, it was too risky. The senses of a god state expert were very sharp. Perhaps, a sanctuary expert could be killed instantly by teleportation before the bow was drawn. Everything she thought about now was just wishful thinking. Chapter 775. Laohan City was a majestic city on a plain. It was also the economic, military, and political center of the entire Celestial Empire. When Lin Muyu, Si Kongyao, and the rest arrived 100 miles away from Laohan City, they were already welcomed by the officials and troops sent by the capital city. It seemed that the Celestial Empire valued this group of envoys very much. When they arrived 50 miles away, there was another group of people welcoming them. By the time they entered Laohan City, there were already close to 2,000 people. They entered the city in a grandiose manner, and were welcomed by the citizens. Lin Muyu did not have any military or official positions in the Tianji Empire, so her identity was only that of Si Kongyao's friend. Riding on a warhorse, they slowly entered the city. Looking at the numb faces of the citizens who were welcoming them on both sides, she could not help but snicker in her heart. What a bunch of unprofessional actors. Needless to say, these citizens were organized by the officials. Otherwise, who would be so free to welcome the envoys of another country? Not long after, another group of people dressed in official robes came to welcome them. They exchanged some polite words with Lin Tongtian and Si Kongyao. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, was distracted and only looked at the buildings in Laohan City. As expected, although Laohan City was vast, it was still inferior to Tianji City in terms of prosperity. Just the number of combat temples alone was much lesser. After nearly an hour of traveling, they finally arrived at the palace. A gilded staircase led directly to the main hall. Everyone walked up the staircase. On both sides of the staircase, there were imperial guards with bright swords and armor. Further away, there were many giant dragons standing beside the dragon pillars. Their giant heads were staring at the visitors in the distance. Beside the giant dragons were dragon knights with helmets under their armpits. They had their dragon swords on the ground and were looking straight ahead. Obviously, this was the Celestial Empire's display of force to the envoys. Lin Tongtian held the frozen ice spear in his single arm, his gaze looking straight in the direction of the main hall, his footsteps heavy and steady. Behind him, Zhuang Xiaoyu, Si Kongyao, Shang Qian, and Shi Tianming did not lose the bearing of the descendants of famous sections. Their expressions were calm, as if they did not see anything happening around them. However, there was one person who was different. Lu Bai looked to both sides and could not stop exclaiming in surprise. "Is that Zilong? Damn, such big teeth. I was scared to death. Is the golden border on the steps real? Young hero, can we deduct one piece from it? We'll be rich. The palace maids are so beautiful. They are so voluptuous. Wow, the pendant on the palace lantern is a purple crystal. Rich 2F** King rich." Lin Muyu didn't pay any attention to it, and only leisurely strolled beside Si Kongyao. The ice origin sword hung at his waist, his hand on the sword hilt. His gaze was calm and composed, as if he didn't see the soldiers on both sides. It was as if these elite soldiers were just chess pieces in his eyes, with no other meaning. Shang Qian couldn't help but look at Lin Muyu a few more times. He was full of admiration. If Lin Muyu was wearing his military uniform, Shang Qian would definitely think that he was a famous general of the Celestial Empire. Perhaps only a famous general who had experienced hundreds of battles and strategized would turn a blind eye to such a killing scene. Moreover, Lin Muyu's gaze was extremely calm. The more solemn this scene was, the more precious this kind of calmness was. Who exactly was he? How could he be so calm? Did he have a motive for getting close to Si Kongyao? Shang Qian wrote a series of question marks in his heart. Outside the grand hall, a guard captain shouted, "Summon Lin Tongtian, Si Kongyao, and the rest of the envoys." Lin Tongtian cupped his hands and said, "Thank you." They stepped onto the red carpet that was covered with golden patterns, and slowly entered the main hall. There were many officials on both sides of the hall, and there were civil and military officials on both sides. Most of the civil officials looked indifferent, sneering and disdainful, while the military officials were full of hostility. Although the two countries had not started a war, they were not on friendly terms. Moreover, after the plain boundary disappeared, this war was inevitable. Lin Muyu raised her head and glanced around. the eyes of a group of generals met with her. Among them, there were a few gazes that were unusually sharp, sending chills down one's spine. Presumably, those generals' cultivation should be pretty good, at least at the immortal state. On the throne sat a seemingly frail man in his 50s. With one look, one could tell that he must have been addicted to wine and women. His body had already been emptied. His eyes were unfocused, and he seemed to be suffering from a variety of illnesses. Chun Hai, the emperor of the Celestial Empire. Although Lin Muyu was not a medical officer, she knew that this man would not live for more than 5 years. The Celestial Empire would have to change its emperor sooner or later. Behind Chun Hai, there were 2 young men on the left and right. The one on the left was dressed in luxurious clothes and had a frivolous look on his face. He was the Crown Prince, Chun Qian. According to the legends, the Crown Prince of the Celestial Empire was like his father. He was addicted to women and poetry all day long. He did not think about improving himself, and was a good-for-nothing. From the looks of it, it was more or less the case. On the other hand, the young man on the right had a sharp look in his eyes. His loose robe revealed his collar, and even the chainmail on his chest could be seen. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes. He looked at Lin Muyu and the others calmly. When his eyes met with Lin Muyu's, he seemed to smile. It was hard to tell if it was an illusion. Chun Yu, the second prince of the Celestial Empire. He was the most ambitious among the princes. He recruited many followers and practiced the art of war. His cultivation had already reached the Holy Martial King realm. This man was not simple. Lord Lin Tongtian, the first dragon rider of the Tianji Empire, is here. Please forgive me for not going out to greet you. Chun Hai stood up and coughed violently. He smiled and said, "How was the journey?" "Thank you for your kindness, Your Majesty. Everything was fine." Lin Tongtian bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, your arm?" Chun Hai noticed it too. "I encountered an assassin on the way and lost an arm." Lin Tongtian's expression was cold. "I see. The border is not peaceful. Please take care, Your Majesty." "Thank you for your concern, Your Majesty." Lin Tongtian took out the letter of credence and said, "This is a letter written by His Majesty. It concerns the marriage between the second Prince Chen Yu and the third princess of the Tianji Empire, Bai Mingchang. Please take a look. Someone bring it here." After Chun Hai finished reading the letter, his expression was uncertain. He pushed the letter to the back and said, This is your marriage contract. Take a look at it yourself. Her Highness Bai Mingchang is both beautiful and talented. It is your fortune to be able to marry her. You must cherish this marriage." Chen Yu nodded. "I will follow father's decision." "All right, then let's pick a date for the wedding." Chun Hai stood up and coughed a few more times. He said, "I am not feeling well, and need to rest early. Crown Prince, please host the lunch and entertain the envoys from afar." "Yes, father." Si Kongyao's face was filled with anger. This is too much. Indeed, Chun Hai's perfunctory and neglectful attitude was too obvious. Lin Muyu smiled faintly. Chun Hai was indeed a muddle-headed ruler. Even if the 2 countries were about to go to war, he still had to show the proper etiquette. Yet he had actually forgotten about the proper etiquette, which was a huge disgrace to the etiquette of a large country. Crown Prince Chun Qian walked forward and smiled respectfully. "Everyone, please come in. I have already arranged a state banquet." "Thank you, Your Highness." Shang Qian and Si Kongyao nodded in unison. Chun Qian smiled and his eyes swept across Si Kongyao's face, chest and bottom. He said, "This must be Tianji's sex Miss Si Kongyao? I have admired Mrs. name for a long time. Today, I finally have the honor to meet you. I am very happy. I heard that Miss Si Kongyao is well versed in the zither. I wonder if I will have the honor to listen to the music of heaven after the banquet." He did not look like a crown prince at all. He looked more like a playboy. Si Kongyao suppressed her boredom and said, "Si Kongyao is exhausted from the long journey. I do not feel like playing the zither. My apologies, Your Highness." She actually rejected him in public. Chun Qian's face turned ugly. He turned around and smiled. "It's fine, let's go to the side hall for the banquet." The luncheon was on the scale of a state banquet. There were 100 dishes in total, and it was extremely luxurious. However, Lin Tongtian was ridiculed, and Si Kongyao was taken advantage of, so they were not in the mood to eat. Instead, Lin Muyu and Lu Bai, the two heartless fellows, got to enjoy themselves. After the luncheon, Qin Qian arranged for everyone to stay in the palace. Lin Muyu's room was in an inconspicuous room, but it was quiet. Dong dong. Lu Bai's voice came from outside the door. Young hero, Zhuang Xiaoyu and Miss Si Kongyao want to go to the Imperial Garden to enjoy the scenery and relax. Won't you come along? No, I'm waiting for someone. You go ahead. Waiting for someone. Bai, you go ahead. It's safe to follow Miss Si Kongyao. All right then. 2 hours later, footsteps could be heard from the courtyard. A servant announced, "The second prince, Qin Yu, has arrived." As expected, he came. Lin Muyu did not open the door. She continued to drink her tea. Dong dong. Qin Yu's voice came from outside. Young hero, are you not willing to see me? Lin Muyu smiled. If the second prince wants to come in, you can open the door yourself. This is the palace of the Celestial Empire. It's your home. Huh. Qin Yu laughed and pushed the door open. Behind him was a young man who said, "Young hero, you're really smart." This is? Lin Muyu looked at the person behind Qin Yu. The young man cupped his hands and said, "I'm Liao Yang, the nephew of Han Yuan, the leader of the Celestial Extinction sect. I'm also the second prince's right-hand man." Lin Muyu's eyes lit up. "Liao Yang? Please come in. It's not the first time we've met." Liao Yang was stunned. His eyes were full of killing intent. Qin Yu laughed and said, please sit, please sit. There's no need to be so hostile." Lin Muyu nodded. The second prince was too smart. Almost everything was under his control. After sitting down, Qin Yu said, "Where are you from, young hero?" "Your Highness, you can guess. With your ability, you should be able to guess. If I'm not mistaken, it should be in the West, right?" "Yes, your Highness is wise. What's your surname?" "Your Highness, guess again." Lin Muyu's lips curled into a smile. Qin Yu smiled. Maybe his surname is Qin. Lin Muyu frowned. She was afraid that Qin Yu's intelligence was far beyond her expectation. Qin Yu smiled. "How do you know that Liao Yang is that person?" "The injury on his wrist. He was a little unnatural when he saluted just now. If I'm not mistaken, it's an injury caused by my mistake." "Oh." Qin Yu smiled. "Young hero, do you know that if you know too much, you'll get yourself killed?" Lin Muyu smiled without saying anything. "Why are you smiling, young hero?" Lin Muyu chuckled. "Your Highness must be guessing whether my surname is Lin or Feng, right?" "Ha ha ha ha. It's really fun to talk to a smart person." Qin Yu put the teacup on the table and said, "Yes, if your surname is neither Lin nor Feng, then I can only make you disappear from the Celestial Maximum Continent today." "No, you won't be willing to kill me." Lin Muyu was very confident. "Why?" "Because only I can achieve your hegemony." Qin Yu was silent for a few seconds. Then he laughed heartily. He stood up and saluted. "I'm Qin Yu. I pay my respects to His Highness King Qin of the Qin Empire." Liao Yang was stunned. He didn't understand what was going on. Chapter 776. Second Prince, you don't have to tease me. Please get up. Lin Muyu helped Qin Yu up, but her heart was cold. The Celestial Empire had such a powerful second prince. He was destined to be one of the enemies of the Qin Empire in the future, but not yet. "How do you know I'm King Qin?" "It's very simple." Qin Yu stood up straight, and his eyes were burning. He said, "I've also sent a few spies with good cultivation to the Shattered Realm across the West Sea. They learned that only King Qin isn't in the Qin Empire. Prince Xian Feng Jixing and Prince Zhong Qinyan are in Lanyan City. Only King Qin hasn't been seen for more than a month. But there's a person in the Tianji Empire who can kill a demon king. Her age and appearance are exactly the same as the description of Lin Muyu. Who else could it be but King Qin?" Lin Muyu's expression was calm. She smiled and said, "Second Prince, your mind is as clear as dust. I admire you." Beside her, Liao Yang was dumbfounded. He said, "You're Lin Muyu, King Qin of the Qin Empire?" Yes. With a clang, Liao Yang had already pulled out her sword and stood in front of Chenyu to protect him. She said, "Second prince, be careful. The war is imminent. Lin Wuyu can only be our enemy." "No, Lord Liao Yang, don't worry." Chenyu pressed down Liao Yang's hand that was holding the sword. He smiled and said, "Your Highness King Qin didn't come to the Celestial Empire to assassinate me." Lin Wuyu smiled, cupped her fists, and said respectfully, "King Qin of the Qin Empire of the Shattered Realm. Lin Wuyu pays respect to Second Prince. I came to the Tianjua continent this time to meet the real master of the Celestial Empire." "Oh, what makes you think I'm the master of the empire?" The second prince narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, "You should know that father is still on the throne. If you show any disrespect, even the king of Qin will be sentenced to death for the crime of disrespect." Lin Wuyu sat down again and said, "Your emperor's complexion is gloomy. It's obvious that he's seriously ill. Even the elixirs can't save him. The first prince is inexperienced and can't achieve anything great. As for the second prince, he keeps followers and makes friends with heroes. The future ruler of the empire can only be you. There won't be a second person." "Lin Wuyu," Chenyu shouted, "don't force me to kill you for slandering my father and brother." Lin Wuyu smiled. "There are no outsiders here. Why does the second prince have to threaten me? Ha ha ha." Chenyu's anger turned into laughter. He said, as expected of the famous General Lin Wuyu of the Shattered Realm, "You're so calm even if Mount Tai collapses in front of you. It's admirable. I wonder why the King of Qin has come to see me this time?" The second prince should have guessed it already. However, it's better for me to say it clearly. Lin Wuyu stretched his arms. Waves of divine power slowly enshrouded the surroundings. He said slowly, "Although your empire has a strong army, the number of sacred martial gods, sacred martial kings, sacred martial venerables, and sacred martial warriors is far inferior to the Tianji Empire. Moreover, I've seen the military camps of your empire along the way. They're much inferior to the Tianji Empire in terms of drills and battle formations. Not to mention the tiger leopard cavalry and other beast cavalry of the Tianji Empire. I'm afraid your empire can't even defend against the regular cavalry of the Tianji Empire." Chenyu calmly held the teacup and took a sip. However, the teacup lid knocked against the quilt twice. It was obvious that he wasn't as calm as he looked. Lin Wuyu's words were like swords stabbing at the crux of the problem. What he said was also the biggest predicament the entire Celestial Empire was facing. Lin Wuyu saw that his words were working, so he continued, "Moreover, I've seen the map of the continent. Although the Celestial Empire has a vast territory, more than 30% of its land is desert, neighboring areas, and wastelands. It's impossible to cultivate. The iron ore, logging, and other resources are also less than 80% of the Tianji Empire's. However, such resources are needed to support an army of 1.5 million soldiers. The taxes will definitely be higher than the Tianji Empire's. The common people will suffer unspeakably, which will easily lead to population loss. A large number of people will leave the Celestial Empire for the Tianji Empire. In this way, the strength of the empire will be greatly damaged." Beads of sweat began to appear on Chenyu's forehead. Liao Yang was furious. He said, "You're not the emperor of Qin. You're just a spy sent by the Tianji Empire. Otherwise, how could you know the ins and outs of the Celestial Empire so well? Quickly surrender and save me the trouble." "Wait, Liao Yang." Chenyu raised his arm to stop Liao Yang from making a move. He exhaled and said, "He's not a spy. It's just that he knows too much about governing a country. So much so that he can infer the pros and cons of the situation from the surface." Lin Wuyu smiled and said, "Therefore, what the Celestial Empire needs at the moment is land. A large amount of fertile land needs to be cultivated and used to raise soldiers. It also needs a large amount of iron, or to forge weapons and armor. And the Tianji Empire has all of these." Chenyu squinted his eyes and smiled. He said, "Yes. But Emperor of Qin, don't forget that the Shattered Cauldron Realm has all of these as well. I heard that the land in the Shattered Cauldron Realm is very fertile, and the trade is also very developed. Gold, silver, and iron ore mines can be found in the mountains of various provinces." That's right. A beam of light shot out from Lin Muyu's eyes. She smiled and said, but if someone wants to invade the land of the Shattered Cauldron realm, the millions of soldiers of the Qin Empire will fight to the death. I, Lin Muyu, will also join the war with all my strength. Even if I lose, I won't feel ashamed. But second prince, have you ever thought that there are two countries between your empire and the Shattered Cauldron realm? One is the Tianji Empire, and the other is the Blackstone Empire. I'm afraid that you won't be able to touch the Shattered Cauldron realm, even if you want to. My empire can form an alliance with the Tianji Empire. Bai Mingyuan hides his strength and bides his time. He is eyeing your empire covetously. Do you think he will give you a piece of fat meat to fatten you up before attacking them? This? Qinyu took a deep breath and smiled with a burning gaze. He said, could it be that the Emperor of Qin came all the way to Scorching Cold City just to tell me this? No. Lin Muyu smiled and said, I have a few more words. Go ahead. If the second prince doesn't want to cooperate with me, the Tianji Empire will naturally cooperate with me. If the second prince wants to watch the Shattered Cauldron realm be destroyed, then just sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. But once the war starts, I will find a chance to bow down to Bai Mingyuan, and then recommend myself to be the vanguard to attack the Celestial Empire. Please believe that I will do what I say. Qinyu was almost soaked in sweat. He raised his eyebrows and said, is the Emperor of Qin threatening me? Yes. If the second prince is willing to cooperate with me, the Qin Empire will naturally do its best to resist the attack of the Tianji Empire. Once they are defeated, we will attack from the east and the west. I, Lin Muyu, can protect the territorial integrity of the Qin Empire, and your highness can seize the fertile land of the Tianji Empire and make great contributions. Why not? Qinyu put down the teacup slowly, and his gaze gradually became determined. He said, then it's settled. Your highness, please take out the seal. Liao Yang, ask someone to bring a paper book. Yes, your highness. Liao Yang turned around and left. Soon he came back with a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. Qinyu picked up the brush, with sweat on his face. He said with a faint smile, talking with the Emperor of Qin is no different from fighting on the battlefield. I hope our two empires won't fight each other in the future. Lin Muyu smiled and took out the seal of the Emperor of Qin from the Cosmos sack. Qinyu began to write the covenant by himself, and Lin Muyu corrected him on the side. The content of the covenant was very simple. Once the Tianji Empire started the war, the Celestial Empire must deploy all the main armies to the border of the Tianji Empire and wait for an opportunity to put pressure on the Tianji Empire. In addition, the Qin Empire must not use any weapons against the Celestial Empire within 10 years. This was not only a covenant, but also a peace treaty. When the two seals fell on the covenant, Lin Muyu and Qinyu both smiled. Come. Let's have some tea. Lin Muyu became extremely polite. Qinyu laughed heartily and sat opposite Lin Muyu on the ground. He had the demeanor of an ancient person. Your Highness, there's still one thing I don't understand. Please say it, Your Highness. Although the covenant has been made, Your Highness is still the second prince and not the Emperor of the Celestial Empire. If the Tianji Empire starts the war, and your father insists on helping the Tianji Empire to attack the Shattered World, what will Your Highness do? The covenant has been made, and I will definitely carry it out. Qinyu took a deep breath and added, even if I have to bleed. Lin Muyu immediately felt relieved. She smiled and said, Come, let's continue drinking tea. Ha, please, Your Highness. Obviously, Qinyu was a scheming and ambitious person. Although such a person was very frightening, Lin Muyu admired Qinyu very much. It was precisely because of his desire for power and strength that Qinyu would definitely make it happen, even if he had to resort to unscrupulous means. Emperor Chun Hai was muddle-headed, and it was only a matter of time before Qinyu replaced him. If Qinyu wasn't willing to commit patricide, then he might only be a second prince for the rest of his life, or perhaps only the emperor of the Heavenly Jew Empire. If he wanted to become the ruler of the Celestial Pole continent, he had to take this step. Lin Muyu firmly believed in this. All those who were greedy for power were the same. It was not until late at night that Lu Bai, Si Kongyao, Shang Qian, and the others finally returned. Clearly, they had a great time and their faces were filled with joy. Young hero, it's such a pity that you didn't go. Lu Bai's face was full of excitement. There are lanterns in the city today, and there are even naked dancers dancing. Lin Muyu looked stunned. Why didn't you ask me to go with you? You said you wouldn't go, so I did. It's all your fault for not being firm enough. Lu Bai felt wronged. Si Kongyao smiled and said, Then what should we do next? Are we going to play in scorching cold city for a few more days? No, let's set off tomorrow. We'll go to the Blackstone Empire. I want to see what the Blackstone Empire looks like. Okay. Zhuang Xiaoyu said, We've just sent people to escort the coffin of little Prince Bai Mingjie back to Tianji City. We can travel to the Blackstone Empire, but the people of the Blackstone Empire are tough, so we must be more careful. Got it. Si Kongyao was a little impatient, but her beautiful eyes looked at Lin Muyu with a smile. Do you want to eat supper? It's my treat. Okay. Zhuang Xiaoyu was silent and he felt really upset. He couldn't help but raise his head to look at Shang Qian, but saw that Shang Qian was also looking at Lin Muyu, and there was actually some loneliness in her eyes. Suddenly, Zhuang Xiaoyu felt even worse. Chapter 777. The next day, they woke up early, packed their luggage and left scorching Han City. As expected, the Celestial Empire's Emperor Chen Hai and Crown Prince Chen Qian completely ignored Si Kongyao, Lin Tongtian and the rest. But when they left scorching Han City, a group of cavalrymen chased after them and shouted, Everyone please wait! Everyone please wait! Everyone stopped their horses. The cavalrymen moved aside. Under the canopy, the second prince, Chen Yu, came to send them off personally. He cupped his hands and smiled. Lord Lin Tongtian and Miss Si Kongyao left in such a hurry. The Celestial Empire did not treat you well, please forgive us. Lin Tongtian smiled. Your Highness, you are too kind. Men, bring me my humble greetings. A few guards walked forward with trays in their hands. The trays were filled with dazzling gold ingots, as well as some relatively exquisite cloths. Your Highness, this is a small token of my appreciation, please accept it. Take it as my apology and compensation on behalf of the Celestial Empire. This gold is for your travel expenses, please do not reject it. Lin Tongtian, Si Kongyao, Shang Qian, and the rest were not people who lacked money, so they naturally did not need these. Instead, it was Lin Muyu who said cheerfully, Travel expenses? That's good. Bai, go and accept the second prince's gift. Yes. Lu Bai was overjoyed at the sight of money. He took the heavy gold ingots and stuffed them into the luggage on the horse. Lin Muyu cupped her hands and said, Your Highness, thank you for your kind intentions. Chen Yu smiled. Take care, young hero. Before we part, Chen Yu has something to tell you. Please speak. Chen Yu was an elegant man. He smiled and recited a poem. The mountain is high and the river is long. The light snow has just stopped, and the rain is endless. Warm wine and chat in the pavilion. Who cares about the snow? Thank you, Your Highness. Lin Muyu nodded and repeated the poem in her heart, but she could not understand what Chen Yu meant. Whatever, let him be. They left scorching Han City and headed to the Blackstone Empire. However, scorching Han City was more than 3,000 miles away from the Blackstone Empire's capital, Qianshan City. It would take half a month even if they rode at full speed. 5 days later, Lin Tongtian received a summon from Tianji City and led the Dragon Riders back to Tianji City to report. 9 days later, everyone left the territory of the Heavenly Ju Empire and entered one of the 3 great provinces of the Darkstone Empire, the Red Rock Province. As soon as they entered the Red Rock Province, it caused them to have an oppressive feeling. The Darkstone Empire had a small amount of land but a large amount of people, and the area of the 3 great provinces added together wasn't even as large as the Skydawn Empire's West Mountain Province, causing the pressure on the lives of its people to be extremely great. They rode in the forest. It was March, and flowers were in full bloom. In the forest, The butterflies danced and the fragrance wafted. It was an indescribable feeling that made people feel relaxed and happy. Si Kongyao and Shang Qian, the two girls, immediately became as happy as fish swimming into the sea. They spurred their horses to gallop madly for a while, dismounted to admire the flowers, and then spurred their horses forward again. Yao Miss Shang Qian, take care. Zhuang Xiaoyu warned. The people of the Darkstone Empire are ferocious, and bandits run amok. Walk slowly, don't encounter bandits or wandering mercenaries. These people kill without batting an eyelid. Si Kongyao chuckled from afar. Yo, when did our great master Situ become as timid as a mouse? Would you care about mere mountain bandits? This, Zhuang Xiaoyu was a little embarrassed. As Si Kongyao said, he was scared to death by the demon emperor, assassins, and other strong enemies in the forest of no return. Now he was like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bow. The confidence and calmness he had built up in the past had long disappeared. Anyway, it's always good to be careful, Zhuang Xiaoyu said. Lin Muyu nodded. Well, it's better to be careful. Take care. At the side, Lu Bai took a deep breath and broke away from the cultivation of the dragon-forging bone remnant scroll. He said, Young hero, I feel a warm sensation in my qi. There's a power that's about to come out. It seems that the demon spirit stone that young hero refined last night has taken effect. What worked? You just need to guide the force in your qi high and spit it out. Okay. Lu Bai yelled in a low voice. A mass of true energy appeared in his palm, but he couldn't spit it out. He couldn't help but scream as if he was suffocating to death. Lin Wuyu gathered her divine power in her eyes. She raised her fingers and used her supreme divine power to strike 3 times on Lu Bai's back. All of them landed on the important acupoints. The supreme divine power miraculously dissolved the blockage. Suddenly, a vigorous force was spat out from Lu Bai's arm to his palm. Swish, swish, swish. It was a white airflow. Battle aura. In just one short month, Lu Bai had actually stepped into the heaven realm from a rookie. It had been hard on him. This kid's talent could be said to be not bad. Of course, the main credit was due to the dragon-forging bone remnant scroll and the demon spirit stone's catalysis. Otherwise, no matter how talented he was, it would be impossible for him to advance at such a godly speed. Ah! Lu Bai was overjoyed and said, It's battle aura, it's battle aura. Great, I'm even closer to becoming a sacred warrior. Ha ha, this is great. In the distance, Zhuang Xiaoyu frowned. Tisk, he wants to become a sacred warrior with this level of cultivation. He really doesn't know what he's talking about. Shi Tianming, who was at the side, laughed and said, Young hero, Lu Bai is just a swindler. Why did you spend so much effort on him? Do you really want to nurture Lu Bai into a sacred warrior? Is there anything wrong with that? Lin Muyu smiled and said, I believe that Bu Yi will become stronger day by day and make those who look down on him look at him in a different light. Lu Bai was silent. What's the matter? Lin Muyu asked. Lu Bai's shoulders trembled slightly. He held the reins with both hands and looked at the grass under the horse's hooves. He said in a low voice, Young hero, everyone looks down on me. You are so strong. Why do you take care of me so much? I have a purpose. Lin Muyu patted his shoulder and said with a smile, Just cultivate well. I will leave this continent sooner or later. At that time, I want you to inherit my will and establish a sect on this continent. Establish a sect? Lu Bai was stunned and said, Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Although there are many sects on the continent, to establish a sect, one must at least have the cultivation of a sacred warrior. Otherwise, one will only become a laughing stock. Young hero, you should find someone else. I, Lu Bai, am really not cut out for that. You know that. No, I know that you will become stronger. Lin Muyu smiled and said, Just take it as doing it for those who look down on you. Just take it as doing it so that you don't have to rely on others and be bullied. Even if the whole world doesn't believe in you, I believe in you. Lu Bai shuddered. Establishing a sect was too difficult for him. However, with an unfathomable backing like Lin Muyu, Lu Bai finally gathered his confidence and said, I will. Cultivate well and don't let your imagination run wild. Okay. Lin Muyu raised her head and looked at Si Kongyao, who was galloping through the flowers and grass in the distance. She couldn't help but smile. To establish a sect, it was naturally impossible to rely on Lu Bai alone. He needed the help of another person, and that person was right in front of him. The key was how to make her help him willingly. This was a big problem. After all, her identity was too special. The group of people wandered in the wilderness, stopping from time to time. When it was close to evening, Shi Tianming unfurled the map and carefully studied it. He said to Lin Muyu, "Young hero, we have two paths. One is to take the official road on the left and go in the direction of Red Rock City. Red Rock City is the capital of the province and can be considered prosperous. The other path is to continue forward. However, the Blackstone Empire calls it a forbidden area." Forbidden area again? Is there a demon spirit? No, it's a mercenary. Shi Tianming squinted his eyes and smiled. The Blackstone Empire is famous for two things. One is the women of the Blackstone Empire, who are passionate and full of tricks. The other is the mercenaries of the Blackstone Empire, who are cruel and ruthless. They have a large number of people, and even the local government is in awe of them. It is said that there are over 300 mercenary groups in the 3 provinces of the Blackstone Empire. The large mercenary groups can easily have tens of thousands of people. The top 3 mercenary groups have more than 50,000 people. They are entrenched in the mountains or in the small cities they occupy. Doesn't the emperor care about it? Lin Muyu asked. Care? Shi Tianming smiled. Of course they care. The Blackstone Empire is the weakest among the 3 empires in the celestial pole continent, and China is the weakest. This is because Emperor Shi Yuan doesn't care about the large mercenary groups, causing the common people to be unable to make a living and have no interest in farming. Everyone learns martial arts and hunts. However, once there is a war, everyone becomes a soldier. Shi Yuan also uses this kind of herding method to rule the country. As a result, although the Blackstone Empire is weak, it can still stand tall in the celestial pole continent. At this time, Si Kongyao also rode her horse over. She continued Shi Tianming's words and smiled. There is a saying that the unreasonable are afraid of the stupid, and the stupid are afraid of the reckless. The Tianji Empire and the Celestial Empire are both unreasonable, but they are afraid of the reckless Blackstone Empire. Young Master Shi, tell me, which mercenary group's territory is further ahead? Shi Tianming said, the strongest of the 3 great mercenary groups is the Pishio mercenary group. They occupy 3 counties and have gathered over 70,000 mercenaries. Even the provincial army is very wary of them. I think we should take a detour. We can't afford to offend the people from the Pishio mercenary group. Why can't we afford to offend them? Si Kongyao puffed out her chest angrily and looked at Lin Muyu with a smile, saying, Do you have the guts to take a walk in the territory of the Pishio mercenary group? Doesn't matter. Lin Muyu spread out her hands. My life is worthless. I'm not afraid of those who don't want to live. Hehe, alright. Then let's keep walking forward and hunt some wild animals along the way. We haven't even gotten dinner yet. After walking for a short distance, they killed a few wild rabbits. There were quite a few divine-level experts in this group, so food would definitely not be a problem. Moreover, after so many days had passed, those assassins still hadn't appeared. They must have already given up. Therefore, everyone's vigilance had been lowered quite a bit. At night, they set up camp in the forest. The 2 beauties, Si Kongyao and Shang Qian, seemed to have also started to enjoy this kind of leisurely life. Chapter 778. The bright moon hung high in the sky, and the whole forest was illuminated by its silver light. Stellar arts and 7 luminaries' mysterious energy are too profound. I'm afraid you won't be able to learn them. Lin Muyu looked at the dancing flames. Stellar arts was indeed very difficult to learn. Situ-sun could only learn the surface with his talent, and it was almost impossible for Lu Bai to learn it. As for 7 luminaries' mysterious energy, it was the pride of the 7 luminaries' demon emperor. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Lin Muyu would not teach it to others. Lu Bai was a little disappointed. Then, what else can you teach me? Although you taught me the dragon forging bone remnant scroll, it is after all only a mental cultivation method. I don't even know a single combat skill. Look, Miss Si Kongyao is well versed in ice mystic arts. Young Master Zhuang knows Wind God Absolute. They all have their own strengths, but I don't know anything. Lin Muyu pondered. I also know a fist technique called Fiery Soul Fist. I learned it from Zhang Wei. Do you want to learn it? Who is Zhang Wei? An idiot. Do you want to learn it? No, fist technique can only be used for close combat. It's not good. All right, I also have a set of Imperial Sword technique, but I'm afraid it will be very difficult to learn. Imperial Sword technique? Lu Bai's eyes lit up. I've seen it before. You used it before. It's a very beautiful move. The first step to learning Imperial Sword technique is to comprehend the heart of the sword and communicate with the weapon. Otherwise, there's no way to talk about sword technique. I'll teach you the heart of the sword first. Whether you can learn it or not depends on your luck. Yes. Lu Bai nodded repeatedly. At this time, Si Kongyao, who was lying on the blanket, opened her eyes and smiled. If Lu Bai can't learn it, you can teach me. Lu Bai hurriedly said. That won't do. Young Master said you can only teach it to me. Don't be so stingy. Lin Muyu pondered for a moment and said with a smile. It's fine to pass it to eldest young Miss Sikong, but eldest young Miss must agree to a condition of mine. Okay, go ahead. I won't stay here for too long. If you learn the sword control technique in the end and Lu Bai doesn't, you have to help me teach Bai until he completely masters it. Is that okay? Well, Si Kongyao thought about it. The attraction of the sword control technique was too great. Her martial arts were the best of many schools, so how could she miss out on Lin Muyu's unique skill? She nodded and said, Okay, I promise you. Lin Muyu snickered. Si Kongyao probably didn't know that she was falling into the trap that she had set, step by step. Therefore, after imparting the mental cultivation method and the cultivation method of the sword commanding technique to the two, Lin Muyu went into the tent to sleep. Sleeping was not real, and finding Tang Xiaoxi through the telepathy was real. Swoosh! An invisible divine power pierced through the sky and went straight to the other side of the ocean. There were very few people in the shattered tripod realm with strong auras, and Tang Xiaoxi was one of them. It was easy to find her, but it was a little difficult because Tang Xiaoxi was already in Lanyan City, and she was sleeping in her room next to Qin Yin's bedroom in Zetian Palace. When a beam of golden light entered the room, Tang Xiaoxi knew who had come. She excitedly used her divine power. When the two divine powers merged together, she could already see the figure of Lin Muyu in Yi. Mu. Tang Xiaoxi walked over with a smile and said, It seems that your aura has strengthened again. Yes. Lin Muyu said. Xiaoxi, how is the matter in the shattered tripod realm? How is the war between us and the devil race? The devil race has been completely defeated. Wei Chou led the Longdan army camp and defeated the main force of the devil race with magic crystal crossbows. They lost more than half of their last 100,000 cavalrymen. Now, Qianfeng has escorted the Devil King and the others out of the 8 wastelands. They are in the savage wilderness in the north, and they will not come back for 3 to 5 years. Well, that's good. What about you? What news did you bring? I met the second prince of the Celestial Empire, Chen Yu. He is a very shrewd person. I have already made an agreement with him. As long as the Tianji Empire launches an attack, he must restrain the Tianji Empire from the rear, so that they will be attacked from both the front and the back. Is Chen Yu reliable? No, but we have no other choice. This is the best method. I have now entered the territory of the Blackstone Empire, and I want to see if there is any feasible plan here. Xiaoxi, how is the construction of the ship? A few have been launched, but there seems to be a problem with the defense. Lord Qin Xiling is improving it, but it will take some time. Well, Lin Muyu muttered. Oh right, is there any movement from the Iha nation? No, there is no news from Long Qianlin and Dingxi. They are lying dormant on the dragon-shaped island, and have not taken any action. Qin Yi is a cautious person. I'm afraid that he will not take action, unless there is a suitable opportunity. Also, how is the preparation of the Empire's army? Don't worry. Tang Xiaoxi smiled. General Feng and Aunt Lian have already made arrangements. They have transferred troops from various provinces to the 3 provinces in the east to garrison. The total number of troops is over 1 million, and the total number of magic crystal cannons is over 50,000. There is a fort every 5 kilometers on the east coast. It will not be easy for the celestial pole continent's warships to land. That's good, Lin Muyu said again. Oh right, Xiaoxi, I have some new discoveries here. There is a stone called the Demon Heart Stone in the celestial pole continent. The essence of the Demon Heart Stone is extracted and tempered in the arrowheads. When the arrowheads are shot into a person's body, the essence of the Demon Heart Stone will fuse with the blood, and then the God Realm experts will temporarily lose their divine power. I will find some Demon Heart Stones as soon as possible and bring them back. Well, you have to be careful. Oh right, is there any news about the Immortal Realm in Shaoyin? Not yet, but I believe that Shaoyin must be working hard. Well, the telekinesis communication consumes too much divine power. You should rest quickly. Okay. Lin Muyu cut off the telekinesis, and immediately a strong feeling of emptiness returned to his body. The short conversation of a few minutes had actually consumed nearly half of his divine power. It seemed that the telekinesis communication was too far away from Lanyan City. He fell into a deep sleep. Outside the tent, Xikong Yao was sitting upright beside the bonfire, fine wind blades slowly dancing around her body. She was in the middle of comprehending the heart of the sword, and it seemed that she had already achieved some results. What a smart and intelligent girl. In terms of innate talent, she probably flung Lu Bai a few 100 million times over. Late at night, Lu Bai suddenly sat up in the tent. His forehead was full of cold sweat, and his stomach was tumbling. He was going to have diarrhea. Damn it, the rabbit meat is really not that delicious. I shouldn't drink the spring water after eating it. He quickly flipped over and got up, only to discover that Xikong Yao was still meditating and cultivating her sword heart, while Zhuang Xiaoyu, Chen Hang, Shang Qian and the others were all in deep sleep. He didn't say anything and went straight to the distant thicket, hiding in the dense thicket in a flash. Plucking off 2 leaves, he squatted down and undressed. After a round of pleasurable stripping, he almost cried out. After he was done, Lu Bai looked at the leaf in his hand, and could not help but groan inwardly. It was actually the leaf of the iron needle tree. The leaf was covered with thin thorns. If he really used this, his chrysanthemum would probably be ruined. When he was looking around, a hand suddenly handed him a piece of toilet paper. Are you looking for this? Thank you. Lu Bai took the toilet paper and was about to wipe it. Suddenly he was scared out of his wits. Who is it? Come out. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The surrounding bushes shook, and more than 10 people dressed in black surrounded Lu Bai. We are the 12 guardian deities of the Pishio mercenary group. Brat, you actually did not get our permission, and pulled out so many filthy things in the territory of the Pishio mercenary group. You are simply courting death. Come with us. Presumptuous. Lu Bai pulled up his pants and opened his hand to summon his Do Qi. Using his bare hand to block the white blade, his palm heavily hit the chest of a mercenary. This brat is an expert. Chop him to death. The blade in the air was biting cold. How could Lu Bai resist it? He hurriedly squatted down on the ground again. Spare me, hero. I did not intentionally pull it here. Tie him up. A long-bearded mercenary said in an old voice. Truly unsightly. Cover his mouth. Let's go. There is still fire in the distance. Bring this group of reckless things back. Yes. Dozens of figures flew like lightning towards the camp. In the tent, Lin Muyu was still sleeping soundly. The strength of this group of mercenaries was too weak for him. They were so weak that he could ignore them. In fact, even if this group of mercenaries approached him, they would not be able to hurt him. Even the divine power astral wall around Lin Muyu was not something they could break. However, Xikong Yao, who had not fallen asleep, suddenly opened her eyes. Her bright eyes looked at the black-clothed people in the distance. Who are you people? What is the meaning of this? Lu Bai, why are you tied up? Lu Bai gritted his teeth. Eldest miss, save me. I have not cleaned up my mess yet. What nonsense are you talking about? Si Kongyao frowned. Who are you people? Release him immediately. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Yo. A mercenary holding a broadsword laughed. This girl is so beautiful and has such a bad temper. Interesting. Why don't we capture her and make her the wife of the first master? Yes. If the first master is happy, he might even give us a few maids. Haha, go take her down. Si Kongyao had never been humiliated like this. What wife of the first master? No one dared to speak to her like this since she was a child. Therefore, she used her killing move. In a flash, she appeared in front of the mercenary holding the broadsword. She raised her hand and slapped him. The divine power of frost instantly froze the mercenary's divine power into a block of ice. When he fell to the ground, he was already a pile of broken ice. God, she killed someone. The rest of the mercenaries were dumbfounded. They all brandished their swords and sabers and charged forward. Get out of my way. Si Kongyao swung her palm. A streak of divine power of frost shot out in an arc. The group of mercenaries was sent flying. If they were not dead, they were injured. One by one, they fell to the ground and wailed. Lu Bai suddenly gritted his teeth. He used his chi to break the rope and quickly returned to Si Kongyao's side. Eldest miss, they are the people of the Pai Xiu mercenary group. When Si Kongyao looked up again, she saw the remaining group of mercenaries had already thrown away their helmets and armor and fled in panic. Their voices came from the wind. If you have the guts, just you wait. The Pai Xiu mercenary group will take revenge. This was already the tip of the iceberg of his strength and naturally won the respect of Zhuang Xiaoyu and the other cultivators. Moreover, Lin Muyu's skill and ease made his cultivation seem unfathomable. So Zhuang Xiaoyu had an indescribable respect for him. Lin Muyu was calculating the demon heart stone in the devil's palm peaks and happily nodded. Since Miss Sikong wants to go, then let's go. Even if it's a dragon's lair or a tiger's den. We have the confidence to escape unscathed. Yes, then it's decided. Si Kongyao seemed to be very excited. She looked at the dawn in the east and said, It's almost daybreak, let's set off now. Leave the horses here and climb the mountain on foot. Uncle Chun Hang, are your injuries all right? Chun Hang laughed heartily and said with the rock-collapsing spear in his hand, These minor injuries are no longer a problem. Don't worry, Miss Sikong. All right, then let's go. Let's have a taste of the legendary LV Fang's abilities. The group of people left the camp like lightning and rushed straight to the mountains in the north. 20 minutes later, they were at the foot of the Devil's Palm Peaks. When they looked up, they could see giant peaks rising into the sky. The rocks at the peak were intricate and complicated, like the fingers of a giant. No wonder it was called the Devil's Palm Peaks. There were no Pishio mercenaries guarding the foot of the mountain, because there was no path. If they wanted to enter the mountain, they would have to climb the hard-to-surmount rocky mountains. Lin Muyu looked up at the terrain, and finally understood why the emperor of the Blackstone Empire didn't destroy the Pishio mercenaries. The steepest part of the mountain path was already at a 90-degree angle. Not to mention the fact that warhorses couldn't pass, even elite soldiers wouldn't be able to climb over. Moreover, as long as there were people guarding the mountain peak with bows and arrows, it could be said that one man could hold the pass against 10,000 enemies. However, the Devil's Palm Peaks couldn't do anything to Lin Muyu and the others. Gods could ride on the clouds and had long disregarded the topography of the earth. At this time, Si Kongyao's beautiful body had already risen up slowly. Holding a thin sword, she hugged Shang Qian's waist and flew up together with her. She smiled and said, I'll bring big sister Shang Qian away, you guys do as you see fit. Lin Muyu naturally brought Lu Bai, but Zhuang Xiaoyu was arrogant and didn't even look at Shi Tianming. Shi Tianming could only ask Chun Hang for help. In any case, Shi Tianming was the son of the Minister of War, Shi Ran. Chen Heng couldn't help but respect him. The group ascended, and just as they approached the mountain peak, the sound of springs suddenly rang out. So Lin Muyu flew at the front, and her eyes were like torches. She raised one hand and grabbed a section of a steel sword. It was a steel arrow that was as thick as a finger. This was a type of crossbow used by the army. Be careful. Si Kongyao shouted a warning. The sharp sword in her hand spun rapidly, blocking all 3 steel arrows with a dang sound. Zhuang Xiaoyu was as light as a flying bird, and he quickly landed on the mountain peak. In front of him were a dozen mercenaries operating the crossbow, and each of them had a shocked expression. You guys are courting death. Zhuang Xiaoyu swept his purple gold fan, and a strong wind blew. Wait a minute. Lin Muyu hurriedly said. But it was too late. The bodies of the dozen mercenaries, along with the crossbow, were crushed into pieces by Zhuang Xiaoyu's wind divine power. Only a bloodstain and the remains of the crossbow were left on the mountain peak, and the rest was just a bare piece of land. Young hero, what did you say? Zhuang Xiaoyu looked back and asked. Lin Muyu sighed. Forget it, so be it. I originally thought that since we were here to meet LV Feng, we should be polite before resorting to force. I didn't expect young Master Zhuang to act so quickly and directly kill this group of mercenaries. With their deaths, I'm afraid that all the Pishio mercenaries in the demonic Palm Peaks will be alarmed. So be it, they're just mere mercenaries. Zhuang Xiaoyu glanced at the huge canyon surrounded by the demonic Palm Peaks, and said, the Blackstone Empire's military strength is so weak, and they can't do anything to a mercenary group like this. If it was our Tianji Empire, I'm afraid that half of the Tianji Dragon Riders would be enough to turn these so-called 3 big mercenary groups into ashes. Lin Muyu did not doubt Zhuang Xiaoyu's words. The Tianji Dragon Riders were indeed very strong, and they were decisive in killing. If these mercenaries had occupied the territory of the Tianji Empire, they would probably end up like Zhuang Xiaoyu said. However, Zhuang Xiaoyu directly killed people in the territory of another empire, which was a bit like bullying the weak. Ever since coming to the Celestial Pole continent, Lin Muyu had also killed people, but only the strong ones. She only needed to use the pressure of the gods to make them fear and submit to her, so there was no need to kill all of them. Perhaps, in the heart of Zhuang Xiaoyu, the son of the Prime Minister, there was a concept that had long been engraved into his bones. Human life was like grass. Si Kongyao landed lightly on a rock at the peak of the mountain. She frowned as she looked at the blood that was swirling in the wind, but did not say much. Let's go, we'll fly directly to their headquarters. And let's go. Be careful, there might be other things, Chen Heng said cautiously. Everyone slowly flew into the canyon. In the depths of the canyon, there were houses connected together, pavilions, terraces, and waterside pavilions. It was like a paradise. LV Feng, the king of this world, really lived like a local emperor. Chapter 780. The mountain wind was so strong that they couldn't even open their eyes. Their ears were filled with the howling of the wind. Lin Muyu circulated her divine power. Her eyes shone with a faint golden light, allowing her to see everything in the valley clearly. Lu Bai, on the other hand, had no choice but to use all his power to resist the mountain wind. The cloak he was wearing was torn apart by the mountain wind. Ah, my cloak! I bought this cloak with 3 gold coins. Lu Bai was heartbroken. Si Kongyao giggled from the side. Be careful, there are bolts. Lin Muyu shouted. As expected, the people on the ground had already noticed the uninvited guests in the sky. A large group of mercenaries on the drill ground quickly spread out. There were more than a dozen ballistas set up around the drill ground, and the bolts were all aimed at the sky. Clang, clang, clang. Along with the sound of springs being fired, the giant ballistas with the iron nets were scattered into the sky. Be careful. The bolts have been tempered with the essence of the demon heart stone. Chen Heng shouted. Lin Muyu, Si Kongyao, and the others immediately became serious. The demon heart stone was the nemesis of God state experts. Who would dare to be careless? Buzz. The Ice Origin Sword blasted out with a biting cold storm, and the demon heart hunting net that was used to hunt giant dragons and dragon knights was torn apart. Not far away, Si Kongyao summoned an ice wall to block the iron nets. And Zhuang Xiaoyu brandished his purple gold fan and easily tore through the iron net. However, his gaze was cast in Lin Muyu's direction. He had just discovered that Lin Muyu was actually using an extremely superior wind elemental law of divine power. This made him even more puzzled. Which law did this kid specialize in? Why was he able to use the ice, fire, light, and wind element divine powers so easily? Furthermore, his attainment in each law was unfathomable. This person was not simple. If I fight him, can I win? Zhuang Xiaoyu asked himself, but his heart was full of worries. Although he killed the Demon King, he was also injured. Although Lin Muyu killed the Demon Venerable, it was hard to say whether he could kill the Demon King easily. If that was the case, Zhuang Xiaoyu's strength was definitely below Lin Muyu's. Thinking of this, Zhuang Xiaoyu glanced at Si Kongyao again. Along the way, Si Kongyao's attitude towards Lin Muyu was very obvious. She was very intimate with Lin Muyu. Sometimes it was so intimate that it was a little out of line. Even when they were walking together, they looked so compatible. Zhuang Xiaoyu could not help but feel a twinge of pain in his heart. As the #1 rising star of the Tianji Empire, he was now inferior to Lin Muyu. Since you gave birth to you and he Shengliang, young hero has made me so miserable. Be careful, someone has barged into the mountain. Ring the bell. Flaming wolf smoke. Inform our brothers in the valley to send reinforcements. On the drill ground, a general holding an iron spear shouted loudly. Dang, dang, dang. The piercing sound of a bell reverberated in the air. Black smoke rose from the Devil's Palm Mountains in the distance. It was indeed the smoke signal. No one knew how many mercenaries were stationed in this huge canyon, but once they gathered together, they would definitely be a terrifying force to be reckoned with. On the ground, the general holding the iron spear suddenly leaped up. His body was filled with divine power. He was also a God State expert. It's Saint Martial Venerable. Be careful, Chen Heng shouted in a low voice. However, this Saint Martial Venerable did not seem to be that strong. He shouted and stabbed his long spear at Zhuang Xiaoyu. Zhuang Xiaoyu responded calmly. He deftly blocked the tip of the iron spear with his purple gold fan, and used his dark force to easily block it. In the next moment, the divine power surged out and turned into a whirlwind that wrapped around the general's body. Zhuang Xiaoyu waved his arm and shouted in a low voice, "Get lost! Absolute wind god storm coiling dragon!" Ah! The general was caught off guard. He concentrated all his divine power on the tip of the spear, but he did not expect this seemingly gentle young man to have such a perfect control of his power. He skillfully pushed aside the general's divine power. Therefore, the direction the tip of the spear was pointed at was Lin Muyu. He stepped on the void and increased his power to an even higher level, stabbing straight at Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu was slightly stunned. She could not help but secretly find it funny. Was Zhuang Xiaoyu trying to test her strength? Thinking up to this point, she did not hesitate to increase her power to about 70%. Starlight filled the Ice Origin Sword. She directly slashed at the opponent's spear with first appearance of Starlight. Clang! Metal and stone collided, and Starlight flew. The hasty attack directly caused the general's body to fall. He stepped on the ground with a bang, and the divine power of first appearance of Starlight was released from the soles of his feet. Poof! A shockwave spread out in all directions, and a group of mercenaries was thrown off their helmets and armor. They were in a sorry state. The general also stepped on the soil and took 3 steps back. His face was filled with disbelief. He looked up at Lin Muyu, who looked at ease in the sky. How is this possible? Who exactly are you? Lin Muyu was still carrying Lu Bai with one hand. The impact of the opponent's 9 Heavens Paradise divine wave on her right arm had dispersed easily. She smiled and said, "We are travelers from the Tianji Empire. We are here to pay a visit to Leader LV Feng. Please pass a message for us." People from the Tianji Empire? The general's eyes turned cold. We, the Pishio mercenary group, have always been content with a corner of the world. We enjoy a life of freedom. We have nothing to do with the Tianji Empire. I wonder, why are you here? We simply want to see Lord LV Feng, Si Kongyao said with a smile. All right then. Please wait for a moment at the drill ground. I will go and invite the leader. Thank you. Lin Muyu, Si Kongyao, and the others landed on the ground. The Pishio mercenaries around them were very nervous. Many of them had pulled their bows and arrows and pointed them at them. Their arrowheads were a little black. They must be demon heart arrows. The Devil's Palm Peaks did not lack demon heart stones. Naturally, they did not lack demon heart arrows. Even a few huge ballistas in the distance were pointed at them. Each ballista was equipped with more than 10 arrows. They were continuous crossbow bolts. Lin Muyu was silent. She watched everything here closely. Naturally, she had other plans in mind. Not long after, the door of the green brick building in front of them slowly opened. A group of people surrounded a man in armor and walked out. Needless to say, the man in the middle was LV Feng. He was a little fat, but he was very strong. His clothes were messy and his face was slightly red. Zhuang Xiaoyu could not help but frown. As expected of the greedy and lustful LV Feng, he is actually lewd in broad daylight. Even in broad daylight, he doesn't let go of the opportunity to enjoy himself. Lin Muyu said, "If you want to spar with LV Feng, who will go first?" It's a great opportunity to take advantage of the fact that he has just consumed a lot of profound qi. What do you mean by consuming profound qi? Si Kongyao turned around and looked at him. She asked very seriously. Lin Muyu pondered. She did not know how to answer. Zhuang Xiaoyu said, "Yao, don't ask this kind of question. This is a man's business." However, this indirectly reflected a problem. Si Kongyao was still a girl who was not married yet. Her understanding in this area was clearly a blank. Lu Bai kindly explained, wasting one's essence qi refers to the matters of love between a man and a woman. Essence qi is the crystallization of the human body's essence. For a man, after consuming some of his essence qi, both his physical strength and divine power will be greatly damaged. It's equivalent to a period of weakness. I think this is probably what young hero meant. Si Kongyao's little face immediately turned red. She said, All men are bad." The corner of Lin Muyu's mouth rose. She did not know where this little girl's understanding had gone wrong. However, it did not matter. There was no need to care about her. Who is looking for me? LV Feng walked slowly, surrounded by a group of high-level mercenaries. The ruddiness on his face was gradually dissipating. It was replaced by paleness, which was caused by excessive consumption of profound qi. He glanced at the people one by one. When he saw Shangqian and Si Kongyao, his eyes suddenly brightened. He said, "Oh, there are such beautiful women who can topple a country. Ha ha ha." Zhuang Xiaoyu squinted and went forward to the etiquette of the Tianji Empire. He said, "I am Zhuang Xiaoyu, the son of Zhuang Xian, the premier of the Tianji Empire. This is Miss Si Kongyao of the Tianji sect. The other miss is Shangqian of the Tianji city." He only said the names of these three people, probably because these three people had the highest status. However, if Zhuang Xiaoyu knew that Lin Muyu's real identity was King Qin, one of the three kings of the Qin Empire, he would probably not say so. "It turns out that you are the new talents of the Tianji Empire." LV Feng squinted, and the lust in his eyes disappeared. He was a man who knew when to advance and when to retreat. After knowing the identity of these people, he naturally would not have any improper thoughts. After all, the Tianji Empire could not be provoked. "May I know what you have come to my Pishio mercenary group for?" "There's nothing important." Zhuang Xiaoyu smiled slightly. "It's just that I have long heard that Lord LV Feng has swept the Blackstone Empire with a fire blade, and is almost invincible. Therefore we juniors have come to visit you. Please teach us, Lord LV Feng. You have come to compare martial arts with me?" LV Feng could not help laughing. Interesting, interesting. A few juniors are so arrogant. Zhuang Xiaoyu, don't think that you are so great because you are the #1 new talent of the Tianji Empire. Believe it or not, you can't even take 3 strikes of my fire blade. Zhuang Xiaoyu laughed. If it is true, I, Zhuang Xiaoyu, am sincerely convinced. Then come. Wait. LV Feng waved his hand, gesturing for his subordinates to step back and remove the arrow formation. He said, "If it is just a competition, it will be very boring. Why don't we make a bet?" "A bet? What kind of bet?" "If I win, I want to take away a treasure from you. If I lose, you can take away something from my stronghold. How about it?" LV Feng narrowed his eyes and said with a confident smile, "Young Master Zhuang, do you dare?" "Why not?" Zhuang Xiaoyu said. "Tell me, how many moves will it take to determine the winner?" 10 moves. LV Feng said calmly. "It will only take 10 moves to determine the winner." "All right." Zhuang Xiaoyu nodded and said, "Then please teach me, Lord LV Feng." Buzz buzz buzz. LV Feng stood where he was, but a prairie fire burned around him, forcing Si Kongyao, Shang Qian, and the others to retreat. What a strong fire law divine power. Si Kongyao was secretly shocked. It seemed that Zhuang Xiaoyu was going to be at a disadvantage. LV Feng's fire divine power was at least at the 50th grotto heaven realm. No one would have thought that a mere mercenary group's leader had hidden such a cultivation. Chapter 781. Ong. The raging flames surrounded the long blade like a roaring dragon. LV Feng's aura was extremely majestic. With a loud roar, he revealed the aura of a powerhouse that was completely different from a greedy and lecherous person. The long blade fell from the sky and attacked Zhuang Xiaoyu from above. Before the long blade fell, the aura had already shrouded the ground, making it impossible for Zhuang Xiaoyu to dodge. Umph! After a cold snort, Zhuang Xiaoyu gathered all the strength in his body. This was the first time he used his full strength since he was injured. He could use at least 90% of his peak strength. He held the purple gold fan horizontally, and 90% of the power of the storm coiling dragon swept out, heading straight for LV Feng's chest. Ha 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 ha. In the midst of LV Feng's ferocious laughter, Zhuang Xiaoyu flew out like a cannonball with a bang. His face instantly turned pale, and the purple gold fan almost flew out of his hand. His arm felt as if it was filled with lead, and it was difficult to lift it. The intense burning pain spread throughout his body, and he only managed to stabilize himself after taking dozens of steps back. His body shook, and divine power seeped out of his body, dispersing the waves of divine power from the 50-second paradise that LV Feng had blasted into his body. However, his heart was getting colder and colder. LV Feng was so powerful. Haha! How was the taste of the first move? LV Feng stood majestically in the air, and looked down at Zhuang Xiaoyu. He stroked his beard and smiled. "Young man, you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. How do you think your grandfather established himself in the Blackstone Empire?" "You?" Zhuang Xiaoyu was filled with hatred, and his face was filled with anger and shame. The number one talent of the Tianji Empire had actually been humiliated like this. This was simply unacceptable. However, the difference was right in front of him. He was completely defeated in the battle between the 29th and 52nd paradise. Even if he had the cast immortal fate and his opponent had the mortal fate, the difference was obvious. It's not over yet. Zhuang Xiaoyu's aura sank, and he immediately launched the next move. The surrounding wind seemed to be tearing everything apart. It was the third move of the absolute wind god, tearing heaven and earth. Child's play. LV Feng stood tall in the air, and the surroundings were once again set ablaze. Xiao xiao sounds rang out unceasingly as the flames spun around like vines, forming a huge whirlpool. He shouted in a low voice, "Watch how this daddy's endless fire domain breaks your divine wind extinction." The flames were like a whirlpool, constantly devouring Zhuang Xiaoyu's wind blades. Crackling sounds of energy colliding resounded in the air, causing the mercenaries on the ground to retreat again and again in fear of being affected by this battle between gods. In the end, the flames won against the wind blades. Whoosh! Lu Feng's figure spun as he broke through the void. In the next moment, he had already appeared above Zhuang Xiaoyu's head. His saber slashed down like lightning as he roared, "Watch out for my saber!" Close combat was what Zhuang Xiaoyu, a cultivator of the law of wind, feared the most. In his haste, he hurriedly used his purple gold fan to block, but with a dang sound his arm had already been knocked away. He was barely able to block, but LV Feng's body was like a spinning top, and he quickly sent a second strike down. With a poochie sound, blood splattered, and a finger-long wound appeared on the left side of Zhuang Xiaoyu's face. Wah! Zhuang Xiaoyu retreated again and again. His injuries were not serious, but the confidence in his heart was almost completely shattered. His divine power astral wall had actually been instantly pierced by a saber. What kind of blow was this? After stabilizing his body, Zhuang Xiaoyu panted miserably, but he did not show any signs of admitting defeat. He gently waved his purple gold fan, and dimensional cracks appeared around him. Those were the starting points of the dimensional wind blades. In the blink of an eye, the dimensional wind blades covered the sky and earth, dancing wildly in the surroundings. It was extremely terrifying. Zhuang Xiaoyu's figure slowly rose up, and he stood amidst the lightning and thunder like a god. That's more like it. Lu Feng stroked his beard and laughed. Thinking back, the Zhuang family's ultimate technique was indeed unique on the continent. However, in the hands of your generation, its power was greatly reduced. If the Zhuang family's ancestor had used the Wind God Absolute, perhaps the first 3 moves would have been enough to defeat me. As for you, you dare to challenge me with your half-baked cultivation? You're simply asking to be humiliated. What's the point of saying so much? Zhuang Xiaoyu could not bear the humiliation and roared. If you have the guts, then come and break this young master's dimensional chaos slash. Ha 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 ha. LV Feng laughed maniacally. Open your dog eyes and I'll break it for you to see. Flames surged, and LV Feng roared. The divine power around his body quickly scattered, and his entire body was already in a huge ball of fire with a radius of nearly 10 meters. This ball of fire was like a barrier protecting him, and when the dimensional wind blades attacked, the ball of fire would definitely blast out a saber light to disperse the dimensional wind blades. Pung pung pung. The densely packed sounds of slashing interweaved into one. After nearly half a minute, Zhuang Xiaoyu's dimensional chaos slash, which had almost exhausted his divine power, could not break through LV Feng's wall of fire. He could not help but take a step back, and his face was full of shock. How is this possible? How can a mere mortal be so powerful? Swish. An opening suddenly appeared in the huge ball of fire, and LV Feng shot toward Zhuang Xiaoyu like a sharp arrow with his long saber. The long saber swung, and another wound appeared on the other side of Zhuang Xiaoyu's face. He whimpered, and before he could react, LV Feng's body sank, and his iron fist filled with flame god power smashed straight into Zhuang Xiaoyu's abdomen. Bam! Zhuang Xiaoyu's body crashed into the short wall like a cannonball, and only stopped after passing through 3 layers of short walls. He lay there with his face covered in dirt, and even breathing was a little difficult. Big brother Xiaoyu. Si Kongyao was stunned, and she quickly flew over to help Zhuang Xiaoyu up. She quickly used her divine power to replenish his strength. Yao, don't help me. Zhuang Xiaoyu supported himself with the broken wall and stood up shakily. His face was full of hatred as he looked at LV Feng, who was in the air, and said, I've lost, and I accept it wholeheartedly. Just tell me what treasures you want from me. Whether it's the purple gold fan or the treasures in my space bag, I'll give them to you if you want them. There's no need, young Master Zhuang. LV Feng smiled coldly, raised his long saber and said, You've already given me your treasures. What do you mean? Don't you understand? LV Feng pointed a finger at Zhuang Xiaoyu's face and said, I hate handsome men like you the most in my life. You think you can sleep with any woman you want just by relying on your looks? Exactly what do you have? Are you even worthy? I hate you people to death, so I cut your face twice. Let me tell you, in this world, it's fine if your face isn't good-looking enough, but your fists must be hard enough. Do you understand? LV Feng stood majestically in the air, and his beard fluttered in the wind. He actually gave off the vibe of a senior who had attained enlightenment. His face somewhat resembled someone Wu Mingda. I've learned something. Zhuang Xiaoyu's face was pale. This time he was truly convinced. Although LV Feng was only a mortal, his attainments in martial arts far surpassed his. This was a true powerhouse. At this moment, LV Feng's gaze fell on Si Kongyao. He said, the beloved daughter of the Celestial Enlightenment sect leader, Si Kongyao. Do you want to challenge me? If you want to challenge me, I've already thought of what I want. Si Kongyao was startled. What do you want? Other than your first time, what else can I want? LV Feng didn't lose his cool, and said with a smile. Shameless. Si Kongyao was embarrassed and angry. She gritted her teeth. Shang Qian hurriedly said, Yao, don't be rash. Even young Master Zhuang Xiaoyu lost. You must not be rash. Otherwise, I'm afraid you'll fall into his trap. Shang Qian even regretted agreeing to come to the Devil's Palm Peaks. They had underestimated LV Feng too much. It was like sending a sheep into a tiger's mouth. Lin Muyu also said, and don't be rash. Chen Heng hasn't made a move yet. Maybe he can win against LV Feng? Chen Heng trembled at the side. He cursed in his heart that this brat was inhumane. LV Feng was a 52nd Heaven Realm powerhouse. He was already very strong. Moreover, he was injured. It was impossible for him to be LV Feng's opponent. Chen Heng. LV Feng squinted his eyes and looked at the crowd. He replied with an "oh" and said with a smile, I remember now. There is indeed a man in the Shang family of Tianji City who is good at trapping horses. His name is Chen Heng. It is said that he has some skills. Chen Heng's face turned pale. LV Feng, don't go too far. I'm already injured. Otherwise. Injured? What kind of injury? LV Feng asked. Chen Heng said, I was hit by the demon god Nushi's divine sound. My meridians and Sea of Qi are all injured. Meridians are injured? LV Feng frowned and smiled. Then, I'll give you a handicap. I'll give you an arm. How about that? What do you mean? That's what I mean. LV Feng suddenly stretched out his left hand. He clenched his fist and forcefully activated his divine force. Crack, crack, crack. His meridians were cracking. Blood splattered everywhere. Even if his left arm flew away in a short period of time, it would take at least 3 to 5 days to recover, even if he used his divine force to heal it. He panted miserably and smiled. How about it? Do you dare to fight with me? Madman, he's a madman. This was the only thought in everyone's mind. In order to provoke Chen Heng into accepting the challenge, LV Feng actually destroyed his own arm. How crazy was this? Did he really want to win against this group of people in front of him? Lin Muyu remained silent. She was still like a servant beside Si Kongyao. She used the Spirit Pulse art to maintain her aura at the first layer of Grotto Heaven level. This way, even LV Feng couldn't see through her. LV Feng looked down on this group of people and broke his own arm. This was the result that Lin Muyu wanted. Originally, he was worried that he wasn't a match for this 52nd layer Grotto Heaven Godly King. Now everything was fine. He was courting death. He couldn't blame others. Uncle Chen Heng, be careful. Shang Qian whispered. Chen Heng gritted his teeth and gripped the rock-collapsing spear tightly. He said, then let me experience your martial arts. LV Feng's face was full of contempt. He could see the depth of Chen Heng's strength. This person was definitely not a match for him. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.